Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 435. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together and we talk about the books we read this week. And coming up on this week's show, we will be discussing Justice League Unlimited issue 1, Detective Comics 1091, Superman 20, Action Comics 1077, Absolute Wonder Woman issue 2, Nightwing 120, Black Canary Best of the Best issue 1, Batman The Last Halloween issue 3, and Batman Santa Claus Silent Night Returns issue 1. Plus, I have a Patreon book of Planetary issue 3. So, heavy week. Lots of books.
Yes.
And Matt decided to be a slacker and not read Power Girl.
Oh, excuse me for reading the other 9.
Is that you dropped it though, or is this just the...
No, I just literally did not have time.
Okay.
Like,
I'm just checking.
Yeah.
It's just a lapse in the schedule and whatnot. Yeah, busy week. But how was your week, Matt?
I don't know. I think I've been fighting a sickness, so that's been fun. So, not a lot of energy, and holidays being what they are, too much socialization. So.
Yeah, it was Thanksgiving this week. Can't say I had it on the brain. Other than a few things that I expect to be out on Thursday and Friday that weren't out on Thursday and Friday because your country and its stupid holiday getting in the way of my expectations.
Yeah, that said, I thought about going yesterday on Friday to see Gladiator 2. And ticket prices have gone up way too much. I should not be spending $14 for just a standard regular, movie during, second showing of the day. And two, there was an entire row at the showing that I wanted sold to, I'm assuming one big group. I don't have time for that. So I like my movies. If I go that early, I like a smattering of people. I don't want one gigantic group in there. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I saw Gladiator 2. It was it's a sequel. It exists.
Well, feels like I made a good decision, maybe.
Yeah, if you want my full thoughts on that, we did review it in Collector's Cut. In fact, the review just came out today at the time of recording. Just came out this weekend over the Male Fuzz Movies YouTube channel.
I was going because I wanted to see the gladiatorial scenes, right? Because I heard there was some stuff in there that it was, true to some of the crazier stuff the Romans did, like naval battles and whatnot. I was like, oh, that'd look cool on the big screen. But that was not enough to get me there, obviously.
Yeah, that was like just after last week's show. Actually, I did that for some reason. I watched Batman Forever and Batman and Robin this week, and I had no reason to. It wasn't because I was doing some content on them or something. I just
you got the call from Dr. Chase Meridian. You're like, I need to take it.
I felt for some reason a weird need for stupid movies in my life.
It's like a comforting stupid, right? Like you're like, oh, these are bad, but it's my kind of bad.
I mean, I don't even know if it's that. I think it's more I was 8 when Batman and Robin came out, so there's some weird childhood nostalgia linked to no matter how terrible it actually is. And it's pretty terrible. And Batman Forever is pretty bad too. I think the one thing that sticks out to me when I've seen that movie as an adult is how there's so many things in that movie where it feels like there's missing plot beats. Like the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Nicole Kidman's character that you just brought up.
Dr. Chase Meridian?
Yeah, that's the one. I swear, like, she literally tells him, oh, no, we can't be a thing because I'm into Batman in one scene. Yeah. And then the very next time we see her, she's on a date with Bruce Wayne again. And I'm like, wait, I thought you just told him that this wasn't happening. And then the very next time we see her with Batman, she makes this choice of like, no, I can't be with you. I have fallen for Bruce Wayne. And I'm like, what are you talking about? All you did with Bruce Wayne so far is talking about how much you don't want him because you want Batman. It's
like the worst version of Lois, Clark, and Superman.
Yes, but there's like these missing beats where all of a sudden we've jumped ahead in the relationship, and I feel like they didn't do scenes that actually justify. Like maybe a moment where she saw Bruce do something that she kind of liked and went, maybe I am moment to Bruce. Something. I don't anything. Would have done. Anyway.
Yeah, the movie's silly, but again, there is a comforting to it because I have a lot of love for Batman Forever. Just the Two-Face, the Tommy Lee Jones stuff, and then just whatever Jim Carrey's doing as Riddler, right? Just like completely over the top. Chris O'Donnell as Robin as well. But yes, it's not good. I'll never defend it as a good movie.
No. Also, they go into the final act of that movie where Robin says, yeah, let's go work as a team. Also, by the way, I can't promise I won't just murder Two-Face because I want to kill him. And Batman's like, yeah, I can live with that. No, that's not. No. Batman would never agree to such terms.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff in there. Like Two-Face flipping the coin until he gets the result that he wants. Two-Face would never do that. He flips the coin once. Yeah. And then he goes with it, but still. Yeah. Someone brought up years ago that it feels like those are movies that are made for the Tim Burton. Like if Tim Burton's the reality, then the Schumacher ones are movies made about Batman in that universe. That's why they're big and over the top and so full of color, right? Because they're trying to be everything that the Tim Burton stuff isn't, and I kind of like that theory. So
that sounds like copium. They're just bad, but whatever. They're a silly kind of bad that's occasionally funny. So take that for what you will.
What's the famous not opening line, but early in the movie?
It's boiling acid. That's the one.
Anytime that's on, I think of you. Just know that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I watched those for some stupid reason. Maybe because I went to the dentist on Monday. Maybe I wanted more misery.
You're like this. Getting teeth drilled wasn't enough pain. Here. Let me watch something I don't enjoy.
Yes, I did think of the ginger who shall remain nameless because the needle was going into my mouth to give me the anesthetic, and I was like, oh, he'd be terrified. He'd be whimpering in fear like a little bitch right now, and it brought me so much comfort. I feel like such a badass because I'm so much tougher than Connor. It was
well, he got taken down by a puppy dog because he tripped on a curb, Pete.
I get a further example why I'm so much tougher than Connor.
It really is the what is it? The atomic bomb versus crying infant meme. That is kind of you and Connor. And the best part is he'll never show back up to defend himself, so we can say everything we want.
He'll rear his ugly face at some point.
It's like a bad penny. He's been
out of the country. I know he was in Morocco this past week or so.
Then they wouldn't let him back in, so he had to stay at the airport for a little while. That's the most Connor thing. I
didn't see that part. He was trapped in the airport.
Yeah, something happened where they couldn't get through at a certain time, or something happened they couldn't get on a flight, or something. I didn't look too far into it. I just saw that he was stuck in an airport for a little bit longer.
Yes. The British government has him on a list and said don't let him back into the country.
They're like, you let him back in from Iceland. We cannot let him in from Morocco.
Oh dear. Yeah. So that was my. I've got more dentists coming up this week as well, so it's not over for me either.
Ooh, fun times, my guy.
Yeah, well, you can't do fill-ins in both sides at the same time because you have to be able to chew in the other side. So I'm back in next week.
Do it in parts.
Yeah, so that's fun. But hey, welcome to the show, everyone. It's
this is the ramble.
It's Comics From The Multiverse. The Kindle rankings, formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10. Let's have a peek at that. Matt, you got a guess what number one is?
All right, so there's a week with there's an X book, but you also have so much DC. But I don't know if anything outside of one book in DC can make that push. But I'll take the venture, and I'll guess Justice League Unlimited.
That is incorrect.
All right, so is it Uncanny X-Men 6?
That is also incorrect.
What? Am I missing something? What else? That's not West Coast Avengers, is it?
No.
Okay.
I realized they started that again.
That was the first number one that I was seeing.
Yeah. No, it's not West Coast Avengers.
All right. So what is it?
Well, it's someone who used to write West Coast Avengers.
Oh, It's Absolute Wonder Woman.
Absolute Wonder Woman is number one.
I didn't think that would be number one. I figured it would be in the top three, but I didn't figure it'd be
Kelly
like, hey,
Thompson. Well, I mean, the Absolute would sell. We'll see if Absolute Superman is number one again for its second issue. But I think both issue 2 of Absolute Batman and Wonder Woman have both taken that spot when we've looked at this. So that's number one. Number 2 is Justice League Unlimited.
Okay.
Number 3 is Uncanny X-Men. 4 is West Coast Avengers. 5 is Superman.
I mean, at least my guesses were in the ballpark.
Oh yeah, they weren't outrageous guesses, no. Yeah. So 5 is Superman. 6 is Detective Comics. 7 is Black Canary, best of the best. 8 is Amazing Spider-Man. 9 is Action Comics, and 10 is The Last Halloween. So D3 had a healthy chunk of this top 10. 3 of the top 5 and 7 of the top 10 in total. So very good. Now maybe it's just a case of Marvel didn't release as much this week. I'm not sure, but Nightwing also just missed the cut by a bit by being at number 12. Then after that, it's a little bit of a gap before you get to any more DC. But that's 8 out of the top 12 are DC. So that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah. So I mean, Marvel had a fair amount. I mean, they had an Incredible Hulk book. They had Mystique, Iron Man, Ultimate Black Panther, but DC kind of dominated the top 10 this week, which is cool. So, there you go. Not much to. I'm just curious to see how much these Absolute books keep doing. If they keep kind of being at the top of the rankings, is that going to be just the trinity of Absolute books, or is this going to carry over once we have Absolute Flash, Absolute Green Lantern? I suspect they won't do quite as well, just because it always seems to work that way, but we'll see. You never know. Seems to be working though, so far. So cool. Well, we'll get into the books then, because we do have a lot of them. So
give me a second. I just realized I left my iPad in the other room. So
this is amateur hour here.
Amateur hour.
Justice League Unlimited issue 1, Mark Waid writing with Dan Mora on the art. One of 2 books that Dan Mora was on the art for this week, bizarrely. So yeah, a new Justice League book. A lot of characters. Got a bit of a twist at the end. It's mostly just through the eyes of Airwave, the young new Justice Leaguer who's been introduced to the Watchtower and been taken around. I mean, we get a sense of the chaos that's in that space station with everyone kind of running around, and we hear, it turns out to be Red Tornado, but it just sounds like a computer at first, who is saying, hey, this member, go to the boom tube room because there's a situation off the coast or whatever, and it's like Aquaman and Sand and someone going off to deal with a crisis. We see just various teams being deployed as the Flash runs Airwave around. We get a glimpse at Renee, a glimpse of various other things. I think it's the Atom who's trying to figure out where all these like missing superpowers have went and stuff like that. So it's just a nice chaotic slice of what this life is like on this station now that it's filled to the brim of super. It gives you a good sense of the scope of how big the team is and how it's like, oh no, we've got different teams deploying to different things, and there's like a Titans room, there's a JSA room, there's a whatever room, you know?
Yeah, it gives Waid gives it a sense of community that's kind of been lacking in DC, where it feels like all these characters actually do know each other, and just seeing them, and even in the scenes where we don't get any talking, right? Shazam and Stargirl, are going off to, what are they doing? They have leads in Citizen Steel and Damage's absent powers. So, the Red Tornado sending them. Damage. What about Damage?
Did you ever expect to hear Damage's name again?
Oh, yeah, no, never. So,
But, do you remember who Damage is for a start?
It depends. Is it the Damage that was like the wannabe DC Hulk, or was it Damage, the guy from the Justice Society? Oh,
I was thinking it was the New Age of Heroes one, the wannabe Hulk. But I mean, you could be right. I guess it could be Damage from the JSA.
I mean, either or. I mean, but the fact that it's the JSA members, who Citizen Steel and stuff. But yeah, no, there seems to be a sense of community there that I enjoy, and getting like this, the Flash tour around at super speed. It was very funny.
No, it's definitely an issue one. It definitely kind of like builds a sense of what this place is, and it comes sort of from the perspective of this new young character who, needs to learn about all this and is kind of wowed by it all. Of course, there's a twist to that at the end, which that does give you a little hook at the end of the issue to get you excited. But yeah, so then the main sort of fight or the main conflict in the issue is that there's an attack in South Africa with these big automated wheel things from a group called Inferno, who are trying to kill, or they're not trying to kill everyone, they're trying to basically ruin this mining operation because it's like iridium and it's really important for electronics in the world. So
yeah, because if you control iridium, you can control the electronics, right?
Yes.
So they're trying to get a bead in on that, and their whole game is power, right? They want to, they're almost like, you have the vibe that they're trying to disrupt the power brokers.
So something, control the space, control Arrakis, blah, blah, blah. Yes. So, yeah, basically we have our team deployed here. It's an interesting team because it's kind of like, somewhat the A squad, but you've also got Star Sapphire and Black Lightning on the team here, going down to help with this. In fact, Star Sapphire ends up getting kind of a big moment here where they find an injured man. And one of the most, I think, interesting parts of the issue is this idea of, there's some people here who are already dead and we can't really help them, but we can try and like save, anyone else who's left. And they find this injured man, and who is it Star Sapphire's with? It's Black Lightning. And Black Lightning says, oh, this guy, like I don't think we can save him. I think we have to just sort of go on, as sad as that is. And Star Sapphire says, no, I think I can save him. Does he have some, like he's longing for someone, based on her powers all revolving around love. He's longing for a person, and if we can get that person here, I can actually use their love to mend them. So, sure enough, they sort of like yell out like for this person's name, and Flash just speeds over and gets her because she's like running around in all the chaos elsewhere.
Well, there's that, but they use Airwave's power to turn into living.
That's right. Yeah, he sort of
radio
like,
transmissions.
Yeah, he beams the name at, like throughout everyone so they all hear it, and then this woman reacts, and then Flash runs out and grabs her,
brings her over.
Yeah, and Star Sapphire gets to do a thing. So I think it's really smart here that Waid takes this issue to use a new character. I mean, obviously it was in Absolute Power, but uses a relatively new character that we don't know that well to be the eyes and ears, to take everything in, so we see it from their perspective. But he also takes the time to give a character who's not new, like Star Sapphire, Carol Ferris is not a new character by any means, but she's kind of new in this role, like being on the Justice League, being like a team with the big players and proving her usefulness. I think it's smart that he takes a time in this first issue to give her a big moment to establish one of the big things she can do and have her compassion be the thing that saves someone's life. And it almost makes her look like, oh, she's actually going to be kind of like a moral compass, perhaps, for some of the others. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I like that she's not just, Violet Lantern, right? Waid establishes this thing that she can do that is different than the Green Lanterns or any other Lantern that's been on the team, right? So it shows, it also gives her a purpose there as well. Like, when you have this unlimited source of superheroes, they can really, depending on what's going on, they can have this revolving roster to get the proper job done. So that was a pretty inventive use of her powers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much Waid plays with that, with like different, like what combinations of teams are deployed for various things. Because there's actually a subplot in Costa Rica where Batman goes to investigate something that's going on, and he's with Jaime, who goes with him. And basically, it's like some girls like ran into the woods or something. Let me just...
No, so he says there's been this winged creature that's carrying the children into the forest.
That's right, that was children, yeah. Forgive me, I read like 9 books really back to back. I'm not, everything's coming back to me.
It's okay.
But
and this is why it helps when we have them in front of us, right?
Yeah. And they look out into the forest where they've been taken, and the forest is on fire. Like, it looks like it's burning from within. I actually, if I have a critique here, because the art is pretty solid here, obviously, Mora is very, very good, is that I don't think the main panel in that page made it clear to me that it was fire. I actually thought at first it was lots of like lights or something.
Me too.
And it was actually the reflection in Jaime's goggles on his mask and the panel below that told me, oh no, it's just fire. That's just representing fire.
Yeah, because when they're there, right, and they run in, and you have all these, like, essentially they're supposed to be embers, but at first look, it looks like, I don't know, maybe some like alien lights or something going through the trees.
Yeah, or lots of like fireflies flying around or something, some sort of light up bug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you're right. The reflection in his visor or his eye parts, goggles. There's the word I'm looking for. Is what makes it look like a fire. And like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you can sort of see clearly at that point what it's supposed to be. So that's a very minor quibble, but it is something that took me a second. So yeah, that's sort of like going on in the middle a little bit. We go back to the other team where all the stuff with where Star Sapphire happens, and then yeah, I mean ultimately they help deal with this crisis. They have a little bit of a confrontation with the Inferno. But the big thing though is that when they get back to the space station and they're bandaging up Carol because she got her arm injured when she was down there. We basically, everyone's like patting the airwave in the back, say, "Hey kid, you did a good job. You helped save the day. Welcome to the Justice League." Superman even welcomes to the Justice League. And then the final like scene is him on his bunk, just with his head in his hands, and his narration kicks in, and he's like, "Oh, they're all so good to me. They're accepting me for who I am," which makes it really hard that I'm here to kill them all. And that's like the end. So yeah, I'm assuming like he's being blackmailed or something by this Inferno group would be my immediate guess, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Also, too, maybe it's not just a fire in Costa Rica, because there's another section to that with Batman and Jaime, and they go up and there's these they look like alien pods with all those dots on them.
Oh yeah, yeah, I forgot about the second part of that. Yeah, they almost look like xenomorph eggs, to be honest.
Yeah. And so, and Batman requests, they need some hitters because they're not going to last just these two. So I wonder, what's going on there with these.
That was it. Yeah, Jaime's not prepared for this. I mean, I'll hold my own because I'm Batman, but Jaime's not ready for this. We need some, alpha level super beings down here.
I want Jaime to look at him and go, "I have an alien suit, bro. Like, we can do this. Just believe in me."
To which he just goes, "I'm Batman."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's obviously teasing something for next issue, but I like the structure of this. I think one of my concerns getting into this book is that a lot of World's Finest has been at its worst when there's a lot of characters and he brings in like Justice League members and all that, because it just feels like a big hodgepodge of fighting. I like that this had focus, it had a through line. While it felt like there was a lot of characters around and it had that sense of chaos and community, it never felt overwhelmed. I never felt like just fighting for fighting's sake. It felt like it was focusing on specific things. And I also enjoyed this build up with Batman and Jaime for something else that's going on. Probably for next issue, I would assume.
Yeah. And there's not just the main plot, right? He's juggling all these others. So, it does feel like he's taking full advantage of the amount of characters, right? But no one ever really gets lost in the shuffle, which is nice.
It feels, this is like a weird distinction to make, I guess, but it feels like versus World's Finest, he's aware that this is like a mainline flagship book, and he wants this to actually be like a more serialized thing that people get really invested in. And I know it sounds weird to say that in World's Finest that's not something he cares about. I'm sure he does to an extent, but in World's Finest it feels more like, oh, this is just us having fun with all these characters, and there's no like grand scheme to make it this great story, whereas this feels like he's trying to build a run here just based on this first issue.
It's a bit more loose on World's Finest, right? He can kind of play with things a little bit more, do things a little bit wonky, kind of like all the Eclipso stuff. Here it's like you said, it's a flagship, so he's pulling all these threads together and weaving more of a serialized story, and it's not just like, hey, it'd be cool, an Eclipso Justice League. This, so
which is gone by the end of the issue,
right. Here, and that's good. Let him, like I said last week, let him get all that out of his system in World's Finest, and he can really bring his A game to Unlimited.
Yeah. Pretty happy with it, I have to say. Maybe the minor thing I'd have is that, I did have to think about what the hell was in it, because I read this like first, and I'm like, okay, what happened in this book? But looking through it again, I do think it's a really solidly constructed book. I like the sense of environment that it builds on the Watchtower, and then what it actually does on the ground with the various characters. Giving spotlight to Airwave and Star Sapphire is definitely, I think, a smart move.
And that is a smart thing when you're doing an introductory type thing, is you give us a character who's new to this too, right? So they're experiencing everything the same way that we are, versus starting with somebody like, let's not say Batman, but I don't know, Stargirl, where she's kind of been around for a minute. She knows all these characters. It was cool to see Star Sapphire kind of out of her element, working with all of these other heroes. Because she even takes a little bit of damage herself, right?
Yeah, she's injured by when she gets back up in the Watchtower. I think, it doesn't necessarily have to be a new character. I think it is smart whenever you've got a team book to give each issue or each arc even, and pick which character's your central character. Like, pick an A character and a B character and say, this is the character whose narration is going to actually sort of guide the book, and it's going to be from their perspective. Because even if it is a Batman or a Superman, who we obviously get all the time, at least having everything sort of from one character's point of view gives it a sense of focus that I don't think you have if you're just bouncing around everyone all the time. So yeah, it's a balancing act, and I feel like this first issue accomplished it. We'll see if he keeps that up as he goes through multiple issues, but no, pretty happy with it based on this first one. And obviously Mora's art, other than that minor quibble with the fire not being immediately obvious, it's hard to deny that all the characters don't look pretty great. The craziness of the Watchtower and like everything, going on there. The fact that I don't know, for some reason it really made me laugh that the Flash just said sup to Renee and she just went sup back. I don't know if something's really funny to me about that. Because it was kind of like what we were getting at in Renee's book, is that she's used to dealing with Batman, but all these other Justice Leaguers, she's not really used to being around. So I love the idea that her and Flash have already just built like a nod at each other kind of,
Well, I also just like the idea that she doesn't realize it's Flash. She just hears a sup and she's just like, hey.
That's possible.
Going about her business like there's too many people.
That's possible. Also, the first panel that Flash grabs Airwave and starts speeding him through, I love the touch in the art where it's that thing you get on like a roller coaster where your mouth kind of like opens up and puffs up. Yeah. Because there's air getting into it. Yeah, that's a nice touch.
And the speed at which they're moving. And also then at the end with Airwave, when he takes off the mask, and then you can tell there's pain in his face. It's not just the tears, right? Mora just really nails his expressions, So it sells the point, like, whatever is happening, he doesn't want to have to happen, right? It's not like he's laying low waiting to strike. There is something working,
Yeah, you don't get
against him.
Yeah, if nothing else, you get the vibe from this last couple of pages that he is not evil. He is obviously working for a villain, but he is not evil himself necessarily. So, no, very good. I almost thought there was a backup in this, but it's just a preview for
Hush 2.
For Hush 2, yeah. Which I did skim, but we don't have to talk about that.
I did. So I did read through it, and it was pretty cool in that it seems like it's a nice way to re-up Hush for people that might not have read it, right? And so, and also introducing like other characters that weren't around for the first Hush. So that's pretty interesting. That said, I'm still a little bit doubtful about Hush 2. This didn't make me any more excited for it.
You've pre-ordered every cover.
Only if it's Ivy. We've been over this.
You've pre-ordered every cover. You got 10 of the main ones, so you can get some signed, some sketched on.
Bro, I am not waiting for Jim Lee again. Like, I'll say that. I waited one time. I didn't even get something. It was something for a friend. I was being a nice guy. That line was way too long. Like, never again. That said, Jim Lee was very nice.
Sure.
So, but yes, no, I'm okay.
All right, what are you rating Justice League Unlimited?
I'm going to give this a 9.
9? Okay. I don't think I'm going to go quite that high. I think I'll go with a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's a great first issue. I would just say the thing that would have tipped it up for me into that sort of amazing territory would just be like a more exciting story hook. I think the story hook at the end's good, so with Airwave, clearly working for a bad guy. But if it felt like it really made me go, oh whoa, where's this going? Whereas it's solid. It's a solid story hook. But no, very good first issue. Detective Comics 1091, Tom Taylor writing and MIkel Janin on the art. So the thing that got the most conversation out of us last time doesn't even come up in this issue. Taylor's saving that in his back pocket for whenever down the line. So instead, we focus on stuff that we were nothing but positive about in the first issue, which is the idea of the serial killer going around and killing these troubled youths. And of course, this question of, will Batman take this experimental treatment to make himself young again? At least, if not look young again, but at least physically feel young again.
Physically, yeah. And again, where can I buy some, please?
Yeah, and I actually had the idea at the end of this where, because the obvious thing, and it was especially because in the final page you see the villain who's going after these teenagers, and it does look like a woman, and I was like, okay, the obvious conclusions that it's this, St. Clair lady who's doing the clinical trials thing. I did think, oh wait, is this where this is coming from? Are they stealing life force from these teenagers and giving it to rich adults? Because that's the vibe I was getting at the end of this, is that Bruce has accepted to take this, and we'll talk about his decision because there's actually quite a lot that goes into it. But by the time he takes it at the end of the issue and he's like, oh yeah, that knee that I hurt last night feels much better. And then you get that ending, I went, oh no, he's going to feel so guilty when he finds out he's been stealing the life force of Gotham's youth. Because nothing comes for free, Matt. Nothing comes for free.
No free lunches in nature, as they say. That said, I don't know if it's necessarily her. I don't know if this is a red herring because it seems like she has noble intent, because Bruce even kind of questions her. Like, yeah, this is all great, but if it's only for the rich and powerful, we're creating a whole, different class of people. Right. And she mentions, though, she's like, yeah, I understand that. But, of course, at first it'll be just for the rich and powerful. But because they live longer, they'll want to make things better. And I was just like, oh, no, you poor naive soul. That's not how that works.
No, they're just going to terraform Mars. They're not going to make Earth better.
Yeah, they're just going to hoard more resources. They have more time to hoard now. But I do feel like her cause is noble, if not naive. So I don't know if that's the same person that's going through and, pulling life force from these kids, No,
it's a different color, but the villain does have like a crazy color of hair, as does she. And that was the other connection I made, is like, oh, that's like a different color wig she's put on for this this antics. Anyway, to go back to the start of the issue, it starts off with a nightmare sequence where Batman imagines himself as an old man, and the kid that died last issue is his Robin, and the kid kills the Joker. And then Batman slaps him. This whole thing was kind of darkly funny to me, but obviously he's having these nightmares about these kids that are dying on his watch.
Well, yeah, and then the him punching the kid when he goes, we don't kill, right? Is that the same,
it's
perspective?
It's very similar to the My Parents Are Dead. Yes, it's very similar to that.
That gave me a chuckle. I'm like, okay, Janin's having some fun here. But the we don't kill is up there with, like, you see parents, they'll slap their kid like on the hand and go, we don't hit. It's like, well, you just did, So,
yeah.
But yeah.
So Batman's weighing up this decision while this is plaguing his mind. He goes to see Bullock for the autopsy of the teenager. And what I thought was, I actually really liked this scene because, one, it's interesting that Bullock sort of made sure he was on the case. He wanted this case because someone's killing these teenagers. And it's actually quite interesting that Batman has this moment where he kind of, like, how would I describe it? He opens up to Bullock, right? Bullock's not someone Batman would typically, I mean, Batman doesn't really open up to most people, to be fair, but
yeah.
He obviously feels so guilty about the way he handled this kid, where he hit him when he didn't need to. And Bullock, of course, is like, hey, he just shot a guy and he had a gun in his hand. Like, you did nothing wrong, Batman, right? You're only human, or at least I think you are. That was a funny line. And he's like, no, I could have taken him down without harming him. I hit him, he got scared, he ran, and he ended up dead. So, like, I love, this is a really good way of showing that it's really weighing in Batman's mind. This is much better. I mean, I like the dream sequence at the start, but this is much better to me than the dream sequence, because it's like, he's opening up to someone he would never normally open up to, but he's airing his insecurities. He's saying, hey, punish me for this, Bullock. Tell me I did something wrong, because I know I did.
Yeah, it's a bit more personal than just the dream that he has to shake off. Because it's almost like he's doing a confession to Bullock. So,
yeah, he's seeking absolution from Harvey Bullock, which is a hell of a person to go to for such a thing. But it shows you
something
just
that you
where he is.
Yeah, something you normally don't do. But even Bullock doesn't seem like he's looking at it through police eyes. Or like, he just shot a guy. I saw the footage. He was holding the gun. Just don't beat yourself up so much. You did what any of us would do. So yeah, which I like that.
Yeah, no, I really like this scene. And there's during the conversation, Bullock says, like all the other victims, this kid that has no one looking out for him. And at the end of the scene, Batman just says, Bullock, Sam does have someone. They all do. The implication being him, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you go?
I was going to say real quick, too, that he was anesthetized with a high dose of like not a painkiller, but like an anesthetic. And then he was cut really, and then bled out. So also it seems like there's some surgical precision.
Yeah, someone's taking his blood here. That again, furthering it's fuel for the anti-aging juice.
Yes.
So yeah, Robin's in pursuit of
the next kid.
Yeah, the next kid who's been taken off the streets. And he's like dangling off the back of a truck. So we get a fun little car chase where Batman like jumps up out of the truck, and they end up sort of diving back onto the car with the teenager. But it's just, it's mostly a fun action sequence. Plus, it's nice that Taylor's including some of the other Bat family occasionally here as well. So we get a nice little scene with Robin. But he's like, hey, Robin, take this kid to a hotel room, keep him safe. Because Batman goes off to see Superman. And he wants to talk to Superman and ask Superman's advice about this potential treatment, this drug. And much to his surprise, and to an extent mine, although I think the reasoning that Superman gives is quite good, Superman instantly says, yes, that sounds great, take it. And Batman's like, wait a minute. I came to you to ask for advice because, what I feel guilty that I'll be living longer and extending my life. And Superman goes on about how, yeah, I mean, you don't think you deserve to live longer than anyone else because you don't want to put yourself above anyone else. But the thing is, though, is that if you do so much good with the time you have that you'll help more people. So you living longer means that lots of other people will live longer. So, but he also ties it into the guilt of like surviving Krypton and like, all these people, like, and also you're going to outlive everyone probably because you're Superman. You're going to outlive Lois. You're going to outlive your kid. Well, maybe not your kid because he's also super, but lots of other characters. And he's like, yeah, you know what? We have to cherish the time we have. But yeah, it was an interesting conversation, and it made a lot of sense. This is exactly the sort of thing. The idea of like Batman going to Superman for advice about this is exactly the sort of touch that I expect from Tom Taylor, and it doesn't surprise me that he thought of this. That this is who he'd go to talk this through. Sure, yes, if Alfred was around, he'd talk to Alfred first, no doubt about it. But he's not, so it makes sense for it to be Superman.
Right. Well, and then just the different perspective that Superman has on it. Or he was like, you're going to outlive everybody. And he's like, yeah, but, we still, if this is going to keep you as Batman for as long and you can ultimately help more people and then spread this amongst, then it's kind of wrong if you don't do it. I kind of like that little vibe check from Superman there. It's kind of what would Batman do? Well, you're going to try to do the most to help the most, right? So do it,
I like how this decision has been treated seriously, even though I do think he's going to end up regretting it when we find out what's fueling it, which obviously Superman also doesn't know, otherwise he wouldn't be like, yeah, go for it. I think the weight that it's being given makes a lot of sense to me, and like I was saying last issue, like it feels like it's playing on a lot of things that they've been teasing in various Batman comics for the past couple of years of him starting to feel weaker, older, slower, so on. And the big thing, of course, in that previous car chain is that when he jumped out of the truck, out of the car, he popped his knee. So
his MCL, which is not a fun thing to hurt.
Yeah,
it's one of your stabilizing ligaments.
Yeah, he's told, if you keep off it for a couple of weeks, it'll be fine. And then, he's like, you're not going to do that though, because you're Batman. You're going to push through that no matter what. So it's going to be agonizing. So good luck with that. So yeah, I like this. I will say nitpick in the art here because obviously Janin's excellent by and large majority of the time. I do think there's one panel in this conversation with Superman where Superman's turning to talk to him. It's the panel where he says, but the opposite is also true. His neck
Giraffe neck.
What the hell has happened? Why does he look like his neck's like 3 times taller than it's supposed to? I don't understand.
Like Plastic Man. Like, you know.
Yeah. Why did he get elastic powers?
I think his Superman's not as strong as it has been, and I don't know if it's the shading, right? Because it's supposed to be towards, a sun up and whatever. But yeah, his Superman doesn't look as great as it has in the past. I mean, it still looks pretty good because it's still Janin, right? But yeah, that one panel in particular.
Yeah, it's that one panel that's really my problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Bruce agrees to do the treatment. He goes to see the lady, Scarlet, I think her name is, and also, yeah, the doctor who she takes him to actually administer a lot of the test is Dr. Forster, who that's the name of a character on Mystery Science Theater 3000. I don't know if that's intentionally a little nod or if it's just a coincidence, but
who has bright red hair, much like our killer, but the killer's is longer,
Yes. Yes, I mean, she also has pretty evil-looking eyes, so maybe she is the genuine red herring. Although I'm still thinking purple-haired lady's the actual culprit, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see. So basically, Bruce is like, okay, I have to intentionally not do too good at this physical because they're going to. And even I'm self-conscious about some scars because he realizes that they're going to ask too many questions about all the bullet wounds and various injuries that he's got.
However, the Playboy version of Bruce Wayne, right, is a guy that goes and does silly things. So there is good cover there. It's like his cover here is like, oh yeah, one too many high performance car wrecks.
I think that would cover everything. I think except the bullet wounds.
Yes, the bullet holes. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones that I think will still raise an eyebrow, but. Regardless, everything goes well. He's apparently already better for his age than most people, which makes sense. I mean, he's Batman. He's clearly still keeping in shape and eating well. But
I'm looking at his bench here. He's got at least 315 on that bar. No arch, no leg drive. Batman's jacked. If he could do this with a flat back, just raw, no hand wraps, no grips, no nothing. Like if this is him holding back, I want to know what his top bench is. That's all.
This is him raw dogging it.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, so Bruce talks to Damien after the fact, and also asks Damien to take his blood because I think he wants to check his blood. He wants to see what's in it. He wants to be able to see if he can reproduce it and make this something that he can give to people for free, people who need it. Of course, I think he's going to find something more sinister in there when he starts testing it. It's a funny little line though, because Damien's like, well, some fathers and sons just play catch, and you want me to take blood?
Because he gives him the syringe, and he's like, "What do you want me to do with that?" He's like, "I want you to take some of my blood." And that's what he was like. Some fathers and sons play catch.
Oh, honestly, that's better than what I thought he was going to say. When he pulled out the needle, I was like, "You could just take your own blood. I'm pretty sure." So I thought, wait, do you have to put this up up somewhere that isn't easily accessible? You need your son to help you.
Yeah. Dad, you have veins everywhere. Why does it need to come from your cheeks?
Now, Damien, Batman needs to be on the prowl tonight, and I have to make sure my prostate's okay. So get the gloves on, will you?
There's a holy joke in there, but I'm not going to make it.
the bat state, the bat prostate. I don't know if it does. There's not a good name for it. We'll just call it Barbados.
There we go.
Anyway, so the teenager that was kidnapped, he wasn't actually kidnapped by the killer. He was kidnapped by Penguin's men, it turns out, because this teenager had stolen some money that belonged to Penguin. So Batman goes to the Iceberg Lounge. He kind of mentions that he intentionally goes in the hard way to test these new sort of skills. Like, hey, do I feel better after that first treatment? And yes, he does. So
putting the stem cells to use.
So he speaks to Penguin and he's like, hey, that money that kid stole from you, I have it now. And Penguin's like, oh, so you're delivering it? You're not here to deliver it, are you? And Batman's like, if you can prove that it didn't come from crime, then I'll happily give it to you. And Penguin just goes, keep it.
Buy yourself something pretty.
That gave me a good chuckle, but Batman insists that the teenager's off limits. That you don't go after him. I'm the one who has what belongs to you now, so the teenager he's not a target. Penguin doesn't like that. He's like, he took from me, and he's like, tough. I have it now. Take the hint. But the final page is the villain with the red hair, the longer red hair, it must be said, and basically a stealth suit, I'll call it. It goes to the hotel where the teenager is, and seems like she gets him. You know, she grabs him by the neck at the end. So, you know, good horror looking villain. Like, you know, it's got a kind of a scarecrow-esque kind of quality to her vibe, I would say.
Okay. So she's called Asema, right? And so I just looked, and an Asema is a type of vampire, right? In vampire lore. Oh. It's one that's specifically, I
would say that's cool. I don't think that necessarily means that she is literally that. I feel like it's probably just a symbolic thing because she's taking her blood. Yes, because she's
taking blood, right? That's what I was going to say. So, So upon looking at that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And also the redheaded doctor, Dr. Forrester, has said that, you know, they have to test everything on Bruce because they don't want to waste this stuff on someone who's dying, right? So again, it gives a whole thing of people that don't deserve, you know, whatever they have. And that seems to be, whoever Ensema is, that seems to be their MO as well. That's why they're going after these young criminals.
Because they're a wasted life,
Yes, you know, so I like that thematic tie through the storytelling.
Yeah. So there's a nice ideological thing for Batman to kind of, you know, because he's all about taking people who are maybe don't have a future and giving them something to work for and strive for.
That's up until Damian. That's all the Robins, right? Well, Tim not so much, right? Tim had a lot going on for him, but you know, Dick, Jason.
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of this idea that he. Like, you know, I mean, it's kind of even the way he looks at criminals in a weird way is that there's potential for them to turn things around and become something.
Well, and that's his entire thing of keeping Joker alive, right? You know, because it's not, he won't kill Joker because then it makes him no better. But however, there could be something we're saving in there off to Arkham. You know?
I don't know if he believes that specifically about Joker anymore after all these years, but on principle, I think to begin with, yes. That's fair to say.
But
so. No, solid issue. Still really liking the serial killer plot, and I'm loving the weight that he gives to Batman's choice of taking this thing or not. And I suspect that there will be some regret down the line for it. But interestingly, the controversial element that we spent a long time talking about last issue, there's no more flashbacks to that this issue, so we don't know where we're going with that yet. But can't complain about anything in this issue because it was just, you know, doing all this stuff we liked. So. All right, what are you giving Detective Comics?
I'm going to give this an 8.5.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. 8.5 for me. Superman 20, legacy number 863, written by Joshua Williamson and art by Dan Mora. There he is again.
Yes, Dan Mora. Say,
Yes, I second guess myself because I'm like, it can't be. Oh no, it is. It's just him again. Smart Doomsday, the time trapper from the future, has a little chat with Superman and makes it clear that Doomsday, classic Doomsday, is going to cause a lot of problems, but Superman will win and survive because he always does. And that Doomsday from the future, time trapper, basically, the last time he was killed, he was killed by the Justice Leagues of Infinite Worlds or whatever he said.
The Legion of Infinite Worlds. Which I was like, upon Google search, that's not a thing yet. The only thing that came up was Legion of Three Worlds, right? Which was a John's story.
I mean, it's not hard to imagine what that means, though. You can kind of extrapolate.
But, knowing Williamson, I thought, he's pulling from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
No, this is a thing that I'm sure we'll build to. We'll see by the end of this arc, right?
I mean, I don't know if I trust them to actually satisfyingly pay it off, but I mean, we'll see.
I didn't say that. I said we'll see them, right? I feel like the way that it's in bold red, it was like, pay attention to this.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Time Trapper here, old Doomsday. He says at one point, I'm earlier than I was expecting to be. You still have both eyes. Do you think that Clark is actually going to lose an eye?
No.
No, neither do I.
No, because he said about Zod coming back, and that just feels like a time travel story when someone says something that they shouldn't have, right?
Well, I do think, though, he might be teasing like his next arc, or maybe a future arc where Zod does show up and there's going to be a story about it. But
we didn't finish that Super Sons story that started with, but Zod was up to things, right? Or well, not the Super Sons, that was the Sinister Sons, but that Zod book, you know, he was up to something. So it wouldn't surprise me if we have some payoff to that.
So, I mean, yeah, basically it's this big warning. He says, hey, eventually me and you're going to have to work together. Basically, old Doomsday wants Superman to kill him one more time. You know, he wants that because he thinks the next time he evolves, he's going to just basically become a god because he's evolved every time.
Strike me down and I'll become more powerful than you can imagine.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I'll rule over everything, and that'll be good for everyone. That'll be that's what's best.
You just said you came from pain and suffering, and that's all you know. Yeah, you want me to make you a god? Hard pass.
Yeah, that does feel like a little bit like a bad idea. Well, this is all happening though. Lois is beating the shit out of Doomsday. Not that it's one-sided. I mean, they're going blow for blow, but
with the Hellfire Doomsday, right? The one that came up from hell.
Yeah, it's some what did they call them? Doomhounds. I was going to call them demon dogs, but yeah, there's some Doomhounds come up with them and get a bit bitey. You even see, Amnesiac Lex running around saving a kid at one point. It's mostly action here in the middle of the issue, with the two supers fighting Doomsday. The Justice League are kind of waiting back to come in, but apparently they're letting the supers have the first crack at it. Mercy is saying, "Hey, you're Plan B, Batman." So I love how Mercy's even like giving out orders to the Justice League right now.
Yeah,
she's
because she is speaking for Supercorp, right? So
yeah,
they got it handled.
Yeah, the big thing that I think is memorable about this issue though is what the plan is from Supercorp to try and deal with the Doomsday problem, and that is Parasite. Mercy comes parachuting down from a plane on Parasite's back, and the idea is that Parasite can just suck all of his energy out. Now, Superman shouts and makes it clear, don't take so much that you kill him, because then he will evolve into a stronger version of Doomsday. So, but Parasite's clearly, oh my god, this is a buffet. I've never felt such power. Unfortunately, though, Doomsday just gets mad, picks up Parasite, and rips him in half.
Make a wish.
It's basically he holds him up in the Batbreaker position. Yeah, but just splits him. So Parasite is
and even Mercy here, is like, oh my god, we didn't account for this.
Yeah,
the look on her face.
Yeah, it makes it looking so hot. So Superman has to beat the crap out of him, and they know it though that his red levels are starting to rise.
But that's a new thing.
Yeah, I was hoping you could tell me I'd forgotten something, because I was like, what are these red levels? What are you talking about?
No, that's something new. Okay. So,
Okay, as long as I'm not going crazy, because he looks kind of angry. He's got all these red veins kind of popping out.
Yeah.
Is this something to do with how Lois got her powers, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah,
it definitely feels like there's going to be some payoff later, just because the way that they say that his red levels are rising, and then it almost looks as if when he's under the influence of red kryptonite on Smallville, right? Like there's this, like Pete said, there's these red veins coming up. His eyes are burning red, and definitely something new.
Yeah. Also, Jimmy's getting frustrated because he calls Lois afterward and says, everyone's like censoring any photographs anyone took of Superwoman. Why can't we find out that this is something juicy here? And Lois just kind of like awkwardly hangs up and says, I'll see you tomorrow. I had a long day. Bye.
Yeah.
And, Clark and Lois are just kind of like patching themselves up with freeze breath and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's an okay issue, right? It's got an interesting tease at the end. We're maybe going to expand Doomsday lore a little bit, because we go to Calaton, and I could never have pulled this name out of my ass, Calaton. But it's a planet which presumably Doomsday either came from, or at least was one of the early planets that Doomsday was on. Yes. Because a character realizes that Doomsday has returned and says it's time for revenge, and then puts on an outfit that I would say looks a lot like the outfit that Doomsday wore at the start of Death of Superman before it ripped off. It's that same kind of mask with the red goggles.
Mm-hmm. So in Doomsday's history, so I just pulled this up. It says, when Doomsday threatened Calaton, the powerful royal house decided to create the Radiant. They sacrificed themselves to make the powerful being of living energy. The first time Radiant was created, he successfully defeated Doomsday. So this is a planet that definitely has a history with Doomsday.
Okay.
So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if, they're the ones that put him in that containment kind of suit. Right, because he was wearing that suit and he was all tied up and was on.
That Earth makes sense. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Either they made Doomsday, which seems to not be the case, or that was the planet he was on before Earth. That was like right before, So and that makes sense given this outfit matching. So that's it. That is interesting. I'm not mad at expanding that little bit of Doomsday lore for sure. But I mean, there's kind of an implication here because the way the Lois and Clark scene ends, where Clark's like, "Hey." He said there's more horrors to come, and what could be scarier than Doomsday? And then we go to this character on Calaton, and I'm like, oh, like, are they somehow going to be worse or bad? Like, maybe not in a monstrous kind of way, but maybe in like a just pure evil kind of way.
Almost like more of a lawful evil kind of way, right? Where they, because it's
yes, lawful. It took me a second to process that you said lawful. Yes. I thought you said waffle evil. Waffle evil? What do you mean, Matt? What do you mean?
Waffle evil is when you eat them with no butter and syrup. All right. drench them things, but because they call Doomsday the Ultimate, says the Ultimate's returned, we've waited long enough, it's time for our revenge no matter the cost, right? So they have a mission that no matter what it's going to take. However, if they just kill Doomsday, it's going to come back stronger.
Yes.
Right. So
Doomsday is a prime example of what the Phantom Zone really is probably should be used for.
Yep. That said, though, I feel like they're just constantly. He's almost like a black hole in that way, where like no matter what you do, there's no end to Doomsday, right? And maybe that's the point of this, right? With the time trapper and like almost his fate almost needs to be like he has to bear witness to all of this type of stuff, because like how do you deal with Doomsday if you're Superman, right? Like. There's no way to defeat him because if you do defeat him, right, he's just going to come back in another form, So, do you like here they take him away and pump him full of Black Mercy type stuff to keep him calm, but that's only going to go so far. So
we never even mentioned that. Yeah, that's how they sort of like keep him down once Superman puts him down.
So, but so this is definitely I'm more hooked by this ending than I have been in a while. But like you said, do we trust a satisfying payoff? Out of
I don't know. Like
at this point.
The first conversation with Time Trapper Doomsday was fine. It felt a little bit like a bunch of teases that weren't necessarily interesting in and of themselves. Because it was just kind of like, oh, there'll be a fight with Zod, you'll lose an eye, and there'll be this, there'll be that. The Legion of Three, or Unlimited
Infinite
Worlds, that's what it was, right? It's like, okay, this is all fine stuff they drop, but it's all just whatever. I think trying to build upon like where Doomsday was right before he came to Earth is at least a little bit more interesting to me. Yeah. And then the action in the middle's fine. I mean, the Parasite bit was the highlight, I think, was just because it was like, oh, this is an interesting tactic, and then to see it fail and Parasite seemingly die. I'm sure it'll be back, but like...
Yeah, that's my thing with Parasite. If he was feeding on enough Doomsday stuff, how do we know this isn't just going to create a stronger Parasite?
Oh, that's very possible. Maybe
right, or he ripped him in two. Is there going to be two Parasites now? Will we have a good one and an evil one? I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, it was definitely shocking. My jaw did drop because I was like, oh man, whew, that was rough.
All right, what are you giving Superman?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
I don't think I'm going to quite call it great because I'm still a little bit skeptical, but 7.5 I think feels right for me. So it's definitely better than what Williamson's done before. That said, though, it's still only issue 2 of an arc, and we all know it's issue 3 or 4 of an arc where he shits the bed.
The wheels start wobbling in about issue 3, and they're completely off by 4.
Yes, so, that's typically how it goes with Williamson. So I'm not holding out too much hope at this point.
Yes,
but obviously I'll go in with the best of expectation. Well, not the expectation, best of hopes and intentions, at the very least. Right, with a fair mind, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Action Comics 1077, Mark Waid writing with Clayton Henry and MIkel Shelfer on the art. So, yeah, this weekly story's progressed again, where obviously they introduced the threat that our sun's starting to be consumed and everyone's life on Earth is in danger. But this issue, Aether dies, seemingly, which I was not expecting this early. But basically, he gets so big that he starts to have his own magnetic field, his own gravity, I should say. And he sucks in a bunch of just rock and matter in the Phantom Zone, seemingly till he dies. So,
now, do we think this will give him ethereal form outside, and that's maybe where he went?
Oh, I don't know.
Right.
It depends. If I mean, it's still got 4 issues left, so I suspect we still need a villain of. If next issue was the last issue, I'd say nah. It's probably just going to be them dealing with this crisis and somehow stopping the sun from doing what it's doing. But because we have 4 issues left, I feel like there probably still has to be a villain of some sort. So I suspect he's going to somehow pop up again, even if his physical body's went to the wayside. Because
as he's getting bombarded by all these rocks, right? He starts yelling, "I repent, please. I allowed my pride to. I repent." Right? So I'm wondering if this isn't just like his end. He'll pop back up, and maybe he's the one that'll help Superman, in the sun, or fix the sun.
Maybe. I don't know. Wow.
Also, I'm getting some dark vibes from Mon-El here as well. Just his whole body language in the issue, and him not being able to leave because of the lead poisoning.
You think he's going to sacrifice himself to stop what's happening?
I don't know. Maybe there's definitely something going on with him, right? Like when we get reintroduced to him here, he's kneeling. He had all those raps from when he was impersonating the Phantom King. He looks like he's been through it. So yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not really sure. Obviously, by the end, I expect Superman's going to win. The Earth's going to be fine, and the Phantom Zone will be back to some sort of stable level.
Well, because Waid, if you noticed in Justice League Unlimited, they have a Phantom Zone like prison.
Yeah, there's a big like door that says Phantom Zone something.
Containment, and then here it opens up with that the Watchtower is still under construction. Right, so that's giving us a place and time.
Yeah, it opens up with basically Jean and Mr. Terrific talking about what's happened to the sun, and they're at like the unfinished Watchtower. So it does place this before Unlimited issue 1. So, and since Waid's writing both, it does make sense that that Phantom Zone door. See, if someone else had written Unlimited, I wouldn't have thought twice about that Phantom Zone door. But because Waid's writing it and he's writing this, it feels like okay, he clearly knows what the end result of this Phantom Zone stuff's going to be. We just don't know yet because we haven't finished the story. But we'll see. More of the Keenan and I keep almost saying Keenan and Kel.
Keenan and Khan. Yeah, which I think this is the last part of this, right? Because they have a resolution.
It kind of seems like it, where they kind of fix everything, get stuff back to the fortress, and seems because they're just going off to the museum, and Connor was like, museums are boring, they're lame and they suck, and then Keenan's like, there's going to be some girls there. It's like, say what now? And like, I don't think we're going to get that scene. I think that's just a joke little ending to the subplot.
Yeah, well, because they teach the lesson to the to whoever these bad guys were. I'm looking for the name. It's not the Coons, but it's the
the ones who have been stealing all the artifacts.
Yeah. And talking about how you guys need to give it all back. We're gonna one by one transported to the still calling him Cooper Boy. And they're like, that's our property. You can't take it back. And he's like, oh, the irony, right? Because they took out all of that. So yeah. They transport everything back to the fortress, and seeming like all the other exhibits go back to where they belong. It seems like the Coons got their stuff back as well, and they're gonna, Cooper Boy is gonna stop them from taking everything else. So yeah, it feels like this storyline has reached its ending, and I'm wondering if that's to give Waid more pages of whatever else is going on, or if there's going to be another, because there's still 4 issues left,
Yeah,
right?
I can see there being another subplot that's only 4 issues long for the last chunk. Maybe something that's a bit more related to what's going on.
Yeah.
Like maybe it'll be like, oh, here's Lois and Co. on Earth.
Yeah.
Whilst the other stories go on with Superman or something. But I expect it'll be replaced with something. Just because I feel like part of the reason why they have this weird like backup in the middle of the book is really just so that it's not Clayton Henry having to do 12 full issue size of art. It's more like, no, it's like 12, 14, 13 pages of art as opposed to 20 pages of art for every issue. That's my guess anyway. So Superman tries to fight Aether, of course, and then eventually struggles a little bit. His batteries start to deplete, although it ends up being the fact that Aether's got his own gravity that's the bigger problem. It's getting heavier and heavier and it's pulling everything in. The issue basically just ends with Mon-El using the sphere that Aether had to give Superman a portal back home, and that's kind of how it wraps up. That's so I don't have too much to say about this chapter. I mean, Aether's death's kind of the big talking point. Everything else is pretty much just trucking along at this stage.
Yeah, because the zone's still building mass, which means that the sun is still. So they have to go and that's what Superman flies off to, is to find a way to stop that. Although it seems like if he has the sphere, he can just shut it off. I'm sure there'll be more to it than that. Yeah, no,
I think that at this point it's too far along that it's basically self-sustaining, so it's not as simple as just hitting an off switch.
Yeah. Which is why Terrific and them are going to be on that. But yeah, a very, very, very interesting chapter.
I mean, it's fine. It's a fine chapter. Back up a little bit more curious, because it seems like this prisoner is actually telling Kara about their past, and it turns out there was 2 people with these like outfits on, or similar outfits at least, and this is possibly the sister of the brother, and the brother was the one that was wanting to kill and conquer and do all sorts of things, and them together were destroying worlds. And
so she was like this embodiment of fear, and he was this kind of embodiment of war, and they would work together, right? To do whatever. He was like, nothing. The brother's like, there's nothing but us two, and they were just essentially going through and destroying planets, right? They're almost like these 2 living versions of not entropy, because entropy is a natural, right? But it's almost like they're representative of conquest.
I think, to be specific, I think he was like he was I think she says at one point like he was rage and she was fear, and the fear would feed the rage, and the rage would make her scared. So it would do this like fulfilling cycle that would be never ending. At the end, Kara's like, hey, like how do you destroy a world? And she's like, how does anyone rage? And you see like Kara in these scenarios where like Crypto's like lying dead and she's like fighting off people and getting angry, or she's about to decapitate someone at the beach.
You don't remember any of this? Is all from Women of Tomorrow.
I didn't recognize the Crypto part. I recognized the bit in the beach from Women of Tomorrow.
Yeah, well, remember, that's why she goes off, is that Crypto was poisoned.
I just don't remember that specific panel. But yeah, I guess that's interesting that this is actually following up on that. And
I'm wondering if this is why Kara was chosen for this, right? Because she knows what it's like to go through all of this. Because I was feeling like this was not reminiscent of Women of Tomorrow, but it definitely feels like...
I mean, it's Kara in space, if nothing else, so there's a little bit of a through line there.
But it's like her kind of Odyssey story, but there's definitely some inspiration I feel like Tamaki was taking from it. So to tie it here, to show those parallels that Kara's been through the rage and she understands this on a different level than most. There was
nothing in Women of Tomorrow that necessarily made it not canon, I don't think. But this is kind of like them saying, no, it happened, it was canon, and that's because that's Superman in the main continuity sent Kara off in this mission, and now it's referencing back to Women of Tomorrow. But like because not only did I recognize the scene in the beach, her costume's also a little bit different on that beach scene, because it's the costume she had in that book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, she says, he is the rage, I am the fear. I am the catalyst it brings with me, and my fear feeds him, and rage
Mm-hmm.
keeps the fear alive, and it's never-ending cycle of rage and fear. But basically, yeah, the end of it is like, she did stab her brother and ran,
Yeah.
and it destroyed a planet, right?
Uh-huh.
And then she's like, "Hey, you were sent to kill me," and Kara's like, "No, that's not my mission. I'm not here to kill you."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Well, it must be, right? I will give
Mm-hmm.
you no choice," which makes me wonder, what is this being going to do to force Kara into doing this?
Right.
Because this being is basically, no, I am the destroyer of worlds. I need to die, or I'm going to keep
Yes.
destroying worlds. It's just my way.
Mm-hmm. Because when she says, I ran, but nothing can destroy him, and now I know I will never truly escape him. So that's her escape, right? Is if Kara kills her, then she can be free of this, right? But that's not why Kara's here. And that's also, I feel this is the, killing rage, but you'll always have that fear that it'll come back, right? And so what do you do to quell that fear? So Kara's that person that knows how to do that.
I also think there's something to be said here for this idea that she effectively escaped an abusive relationship,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and is on the run and thinks that the only solution is for her life to end, and Kara's going to convince her not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like kind of like what a lot of the heart of the story is going to ultimately be. Maybe I'm simplifying it a bit too much with that, but like we'll have to see if we get more of like what this relationship was between the brother and sister, and if we get more context as to like how much choice she had in the matter and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I can't help but feel just that part specifically that you just brought up there about how he will always keep coming for me, so I have to die. It really made me think of that scenario, and that maybe it's speaking about that.
Yeah, no, she's definitely has some PTSD with this type of stuff, right? And what do the supers do? What are the House of L, for lack of a better term? They're the ones that are meant to be that hope, right? So you feel like Kara's going to try to reach through to this personification of fear. So, but yeah, well, and then if you want to bring into the whole lantern dynamics of it, right, is that what was opposite on the spectrum of fear, and that was hope, right? So it just plays into that whole cosmic side of things as well, if you want to look at it that way. So, I really love where this had went, right? This went from, her going through kind of doing this kind of heisty prison break type style.
Yeah, also, it's worth mentioning as well that it looks like is it the brother? One of them anyway seems to have witnessed that scene from Women of Tomorrow on the beach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When they had the bad guy and she had the sword there. It looks like one of them was actually watching that.
Yeah. Well, and that's where he says that, he is rage. And that's why Kara went on that mission, right? And so that's him being the personification of rage. It was there with her, right? Was he actually there? I think that's open for interpretation right now. But I think that's.
So you don't think this is literal? You don't think he's actually standing there watching? Okay.
No. I mean, maybe depending where Tamaki takes the story, right?
Well,
but I definitely think that's.
Yeah, part of me is expecting to find out this planet they were on got destroyed, like after Supergirl and Co left.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because you see, that her bringing down the sword in her face, in Fear's face, right? And when he goes, and I am Fear, right? And he has his hand on her. So, and we see that Kara. So it's almost like he's bringing back what he saw to her. So maybe right. Maybe that was a thing there.
Yeah, it seems like if I was to guess, I would say they went back to that planet where that finale from Women of Tomorrow happened, and that was the planet they destroyed. Now, I don't remember enough about that planet to know if it was populated or whatever. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and read Women Tomorrow. But it's interesting that it's tying back into that. It's a curious direction.
Yeah, I got to that page and went, this is Women of Tomorrow. I was surprised that that's the direction we were heading.
Well, I think, Joe, it was. I think when I got to that page, I thought this was showing things from like Kara's future. So at first it never clicked for me. It was the scene on the beach at the bottom that made me go, wait a minute. I know who that character is in the background. I know who this is. I remember this scene. So yeah, very, very interesting direction. This backup's definitely kept surprising me. If anything, the only issue with it is that it's a backup and we only get 8 pages at a time. When I would really maybe would have enjoyed it more if it was just like maybe 3 bigger issues. But
however they choose to collect this, I'm gonna want to pick it up to have it like I have Woman of Tomorrow, right? Because it is a nice solo Supergirl story.
I mean, it'll be about the size of like 5 regular issues once you add it all together. Yeah, assuming it's 12 parts, which I think it is. So
yeah, that's enough for a trade.
Yeah, that's enough for its own trade. Yeah.
No. But yeah, however they choose that, to collect it, I'm gonna want it because it's a really strong story. I'm really enjoying this, which we shouldn't be surprised because it's Tamaki, and when Tamaki did Supergirl the last time, we really enjoyed being Super. So
yeah, I wonder if it's also one of those things where because that book is getting directly adapted into a movie, that it's like, oh, this is an important Supergirl story now, so we have to consider it as canon. We have to consider it as something that people are going to look at. And more people are going to read it because it's directly tied to a movie. Just purely because, in the same way that, okay, people like the Batman movie, what did they go read? They go read Year One and Dark Knight Returns. Like, those are the books that people kind of find first. Because it's actually called Women of Tomorrow, people are going to find that book. If people like the movie and it sort of finds a bit of a new audience, maybe younger girls like the movie and go seek out the book that it came from, that'll be a lot of people's starting point for getting into the character in the comics. So yeah, I feel like we're probably going to see it referenced in some small ways for a long time, if I was to guess, assuming that the movie's a hit. And it may not be. I mean, something like 9 out of the last 10 DC movies have all been failures, so it's not a guaranteed thing by any means. But we'll see. All right, interesting. All right, what are you giving this week's Action Comics?
Let's see. So I really like the backup, and the other was so evening it out. I'll give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I'll go with a straight 7. I think I like the backup more than the main story. I think the main story is just a fine chapter that is chugging along nicely. The subplot in the middle I can take or leave. It's just kind of there for a bit of fluff more than anything else. Backup's pretty good though, and definitely tying it into Supergirl Women of Tomorrow is definitely a surprising turn that does make it a little bit more exciting in a weird way. I think part of that excitement just comes from the fact, that story is going to be referenced going forward. It's going to be something that's brought up in some way, and maybe even the other characters that were in it might even pop up at some point potentially. So yeah, cool. All right. Absolute Wonder Woman issue 2. Kelly Thompson writing with Hayden Sherman on the art. So, first issue was flashback heavy about how she grew up with Cersei and Wonder Woman fighting monsters on the beach. This issue has a little bit of flashbacking, but it's mostly taking forward the present day story. And the one thing that it does flashback is kind of elaborating on how she met Steve, because Steve appears by the title page of this issue. And it is interesting to see that, he did land on her little island in hell, just like he used to in Themyscira. But obviously the experience is a little bit different because it's just her and Cersei. There's a great bit actually where they're debating why he's here and they're helping him and whatnot and explaining where he is. And she's talking to Cersei and she says, "Oh, I'm trying to figure out what he is. Is he another prisoner like us? Is he this? Is he that? Or is he a gift?" And I love the art here because the look in Cersei's face when Diana says that, and Cersei's just realizing, Diana's feeling some feelings that she's not had before for this man who's shown up. It said a lot in the art. It told a lot of the story just from that reaction, which I really appreciate. So that look on Cersei's face,
it's almost like a smirk, but not quite.
Oh yeah, she's like, Diana's jonesing for it now. That's what that look means. No, this is a lot of fighting. Diana uses her lasso. We get a little bit more context of what this lasso is, because obviously there's no reason why it has to be the same as the Perfect. It's right. You know, it's its own thing. It's new here. So
What is she calls it? The Nemesis.
the Nemesis,
Which,
yes.
yeah.
It's that Harbinger. But it's Harbinger. Oh man, no, that's the wrong. What's the bubble I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Right. Blessed by a Demeter, goddess of the harvest, mother of us all.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it was fashioned by Circe, made from the remains of the last basilisk, infused with the blood of Prometheus, blessed by Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, the mother of us all. So it's this thing that is just charged with, so like Prometheus was the Titan that gave humanity fire, right? So it's that spark of,
Well, okay. I mean, that's getting into the nitty gritty of the theology behind it, but to explain what it actually does, it basically makes you feel the pain of the blood of the innocent. So presumably, if you've never harmed anyone, it would have no effect on. I mean, I assume.
Right.
I'm not sure, but I assume that.
Right.
But if you have harmed innocent people, then the weightier your soul is from that, the more this thing will like torture you.
And it seems like the Harbinger, which is this big monster, right? That's, it's enough that as soon as she gets around it, it starts yelling to release him, right?
Oh yeah, so it agrees to retreat. It's like, yeah, we'll go back out of the water. Like, okay, I'm done. That's fine. Off I go. And then that's when Steve comes out afterwards, and we find out they have met, and we get our flashback to how they met and kind of establish some of the story versions here. What I liked about where this went, though, other than there's some jokes where Steve's like, you named your Pegasus, and she's like, no, it's actually Pegasus. That's why they're all called Pegasus, because this is Pegasus.
This is the Pegasus.
Yes. Yeah. But, I loved, again, this is something that gets played with Wonder Woman a lot, especially in early Wonder Woman stories, where the powers that be, the military, the government, whoever, don't like that she is smarter than them, don't like that she is making commands and giving orders and getting involved. Like, because we cut to this scene where this general character is just chewing her out and yelling, you put people in danger, you did this, you did that. And she's just sort of like keeping her cool. To be fair, she's been very patient, but doesn't really give him an inch either. Like, never really backs down in her assertments or whatever.
Well, and the size difference too, right? Is he's yelling up at her, she's looking at him, because they mention on the island that, Steve is like, oh yeah, you're very tall. And she's like, we're similar height. And he's like, well, where I come from, women aren't as tall as you. And so then when we see here, like, she is towering over this general, right? She literally has the high ground. Yeah.
And sometimes you find that short guys, even around taller men, have to try and compensate for their insecurities. Not that I'm accusing you of that, Matt.
I've told my brother, who's around my same height, once you stop caring about your height, you don't care no more. It doesn't matter. So,
like a small dog who just has to bark more than all the other dogs because like.
Oh, I still bark, but I'm okay about my height. I bark because I'm an a-hole, right? And if something broken in flesh, it's nothing to do with my height.
Yeah, but it's almost emphasized here, where you can imagine this guy throws his weight around a lot to feel like he's in charge. So not only is someone taller like coming in and having authority, but it's a woman who's coming in and having authority, and I don't think he's very comfortable with that. Yes. So he's also terrified when Wonder Woman says, "Yeah, we made those monsters back away, but there'll be more coming, probably within the hour." And he's like, "The hour? All right, let's evacuate." Everywhere, shall we? Let's get the city emptied so we can go and deal with this. So I kind of dig that this version of Wonder Woman has become kind of a kaiju book, because that 2-page spread of like, it looks like the monster from the end of The Mist. Like, have you ever seen The Mist? There's a monster in that this reminds me a lot of, like, really tall but with all these tentacles coming down from the sort of the middle.
It is Lovecraftian.
It's very Lovecraftian. Like, I want to call it Leviathan. I don't know if that's actually what it's supposed to be called, but that's the word that comes to my head when I look at this thing. You got tentacles coming down from its middle. You've got big, giant insect-like legs, and you've got a face which is basically just a vagina. Like that's all I could really describe this thing as. It's nasty, and it feels gargantuan. And that final panel of Wonder Woman walking off to take it on or something. Like, I mean, whatever she's going to do. Yeah, because actually, yeah, that's the thing. She said evacuate like a square mile or something, and at the end when she sees this thing, she's like, evacuate the whole city, and the general's like, a city? You said a mile, and she's like, I was wrong.
Yep, this thing leaves nothing behind, so let's go. I will say I love Hayden Sherman's breakdowns and the panels, because he plays here with all the panels. They're coming in at different angles, right? There's, some of them cut into like a W when she's talking, and then you get to that page of the Tetracide, the Leviathan, whatever it is, and it's just a straight shot, right? Like there's just one big panel, it looks like, and it really makes that pop.
Yeah, because you've got all these like corners being cut off of like some of the previous panels, it makes them feel kind of more enclosed in this weird way. Yeah. So not only do you get the effect of it being a 2-page spread, which inherently is going to feel bigger and more open than a typical panel or even a splash page, because all the panels before didn't even get to be rectangles, they all had to be like weird, I don't know, whatever shape they end up being.
Different angles, and like you said, there's empty space in some of them, right? There's parts of the page that are left white.
Yes.
Right, where he cuts across. Here, it's a full 2-page spread. There's no white anywhere, right? It is just the full open, double page spread.
Yeah, if you go back through all those earlier pages, you've got panels being shaped into W's, like you said. You've got ones that just have sort of like arrowheads, and they're cutting into other panels. There's even ones that are more circular, where they're kind of all like, but it all just kind of falls away when you get to that page, and you notice that it's missing, on there. So, no, it really gives it a lot more impact. So, yeah. We talked a lot about the art in the first issue and how it's, the raw faces aren't always to my taste. That said, though, the first thing I praised about this issue was that reaction panel of Cersei. Yeah. So clearly the intended emotion and like facial expression was captured. Like he got it across. I got what she was doing, and I enjoyed that moment because of the art told me the story. So while I might not necessarily like it as much to my eye as like, oh, this looks pretty, like I can't, like, there's no faulting that it's handling the material, it's telling the story, it's helping the writing. I love that this is like a sort of Lovecraftian kaiju book though. Like I'm digging kind of the scale and the idea that she's fighting creatures from hell, so everything's like got this, like it was different to when she's fighting. I mean, obviously gods are powerful and all that when she's taking on Zeus and whatnot, but there's something just more like cosmic horror about like all this stuff she's fighting in this book, which does feel right for a darker universe in a weird way. Yeah,
for sure. There's another scene you're talking about, reactions and facial expressions and whatnot. The scene where they're walking on the beach, her and Steve, and she talks about the Hydra that tried to pull him under, that she had to fight off, and Cersei was like, "Don't do that. Why are you making the Hydra mad?" It's like something that they normally coexist with. And he skips the rock, and she's like, "You probably don't want to do that with the Hydra still around." And she points to it. He goes, "Oh, I can't see it." And he goes, "And I have good eyes because I'm a pilot." He goes, "But your eyes are something else." And just the look on both of their faces and the attention that's drawn to Diana's eyes, right? There's the heavier lines around them, and she almost looks like on a Greek vase, right? There's something about that looks classical, but just the look on both of their faces are just completely like, it sells the entire scene. Just the look between them, the small glance. While the art sometimes, like you said, the faces might not be fully up to par, the emotion behind them and the statement that they're making, just it lands.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting way to describe art, is that it's not necessarily always to my eye in terms of like attractiveness, but it's always telling the story well. And that's kind of an interesting sort of ground to be in. But by and large, though, it has a distinct look and feel, and it does fit the tone that the book's going for. Like it feels like, I think one of the things that I'm so impressed about with all three of these Absolute books so far is how well they've like created a world for these new versions of the characters to be in. Like the new version of Gotham that feels more violent and dangerous with the Batman, and then this version of Wonder Woman with all these Lovecraftian monsters and the color scheme and all that, like they feel very well defined and fleshed out right from the start, which is very impressive. So hard to complain. Also, interesting touch is that it's very muted colors wise, right? And the one thing that really sticks out most of the time is the red that's on Diana's outfit, right? That tends to be the most strong color, and sometimes accompanied by the eyes of the Pegasus, which also has the bright red. Obviously, very connected to her. So it really sticks out. Again, we keep praising this 2-page splash, but there's no strong color in that page, which is interesting, right? Because typically, if you want a big splash page, you would put your strong colors on that page. You'd have it say, hey, it's bold. But here it's the absence of the color that sticks out. It's almost like Diana represents life, represents like whatever you want to call it, energy, passion. And then this monster though isn't the world that she is trying to create. It's this is the darkness from underneath our world or beyond our world kind of thing.
It's definitely otherworldly and ethereal. Yeah.
It feels that she's trying to bring some color to the world, but these things are coming to stop her in a way and keep it being morose or whatever. Now, having said that, I think the monsters at the start were pretty red. They were, but still,
they were.
Yeah, but still, for the back half of the issue, I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's an indication though that those other monsters that she's fighting at the start were also from hell, but this thing at the end is something bigger. It's something more dangerous kind of thing.
Yes.
But either way, it worked and really sold that big moment. So yeah, cannot complain. This was still a super fun, exciting read. Thompson's nailing it. The art's helping it as well. Like there's no. I really have no complaints, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty solid book.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I think the pacing's really good as well. Yeah, and to be fair, looking through it again, there was actually, I mean, the flashback in the middle was fairly meaty, but it was it still felt lesser than the first issue, which felt like it was going back to flashbacks constantly. This was more just all in the middle, which still fascinating to see. Though, just because it is this new take on Wonder Woman and everything is a little bit different. So, yeah, curious to see how Steve ended up there, because that's something they kind of touch on but don't quite answer. Is like, you didn't just stumble into hell. Like, something must have happened that sent you here, because it's not exactly it's not just an island that's off the coast of somewhere that you might stumble into.
Like Themyscira was, where he crash landed there. Right here, he freaks out because he died.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he did die, but he thinks he's dead because he's in hell. Yes. But, I mean, we'll see. Anyway, somehow he gets out, though, because like this is the first time they've seen each other in a while, it seems like, when she sees him in the beach back in the city. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes. Matt, what are you giving Absolute Wonder Woman?
I'm giving this a 9.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. 9 out of 10 for me, too. It has been very, very good. All right, Nightwing 120, Legacy number 307, Dan Waters writing with Dexter Soy on the art. So we had a lot of stuff set up in that last issue, actually, the first part of this arc, which was the various gangs that were all kind of ready to make peace, but a third party came in and sort of blew them up, all the leaders, and put a stop to it.
Literally blew up the peace treaty or peace talks.
Yeah, and you've got this company who are clearly behind it, who are trying to give the police of Bloodhaven this high-tech, almost sci-fi level weaponry. And the issue ended with Nightwing breaking into their warehouse or lab, and this big Ed 209 looking son of a bitch taking shots at him. Which Nightwing, dodges and deals with at the start, fun action sequence. But the big reveal here at the start is that inside the orb part of this robot is actually a bunny that is like sort of hooked up, because he's looking for he thinks, okay, I need to break into this thing and take out its CPU so that it can't function, right? Solid logic, right? Makes sense. Only to find that there is actually a living thing inside that's being used. Now, I was see when he reacted before, because there's a moment where he sort of, he looks down and says, oh, what have you done, Spheric, which is the name of the company, and then the evil lady running it self-detonates it by switch. And he comes over, and I was expecting to see a human. I was expecting to see like a child or someone.
Or like a head, right? That's connected and like...
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You know...
Or even just a brain, I suppose, in a jar or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead it's a bunny, and I'm like, wait a minute. It's bunnies. It must be bunnies. No?
I don't... What's that a reference to?
It's a reference to the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't remember that episode.
It's the musical episode.
Yeah, that's probably why I don't remember it.
I could also reference Twin Peaks here if you like.
Sure, I'm not going to get that one either.
It's not about the bunnies.
Gotcha.
Is it about the bunnies? It's not about the bunnies. Anyway, okay, so my sister.
Look, as an animal lover, this is way more evil than it being a person. I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah. No,
like,
Dick, grabs the bunny, rescues it, goes on the run. It's a whole thing. It calls Babs, who is like, hey, you can't start bringing test animals home, as much as I feel bad for the bunny. Why? Because he has a dog, and the dog's not going to just be cool with there being a bunny in the house, as we find out. So it turns out he had to keep them separated in different rooms, and it was a stressful night, to say the least.
I do love that they're keeping the entire, Dick doesn't think things through. He just does, right? And then Barbara gets to kind of talk him through it. And the way that she says, where's it at? Dick Grayson, my love, the light of my life. Like, it definitely feels like a real relationship, because that's a tone that I've gotten numerous times when I've done something silly. So I do like that they kept that dynamic going, that Dick he does things. He doesn't think it all the way through. He saw an animal in need, and he just grabbed and ran.
Yeah, so he calls his sister in the morning and tries to, or actually she calls him, I should say, and is like, hey, what the hell happened last night? And he turns on the TV, and the company, Spheric, is spinning this all as the gangs were doing this. She specifically blames the teddy bear gang and says, hey, they were trying to do this so that they could use our weapons to kill the other gangs. So we get the reactions of all the gangs watching this news broadcast, and they're like, wait, were they now? They were trying to kill us. So it pisses off 3 of the gangs and makes the teddy bear gang look like they're the culprits. And they're like, what? We didn't do any of this shit. What's going on? So she's using this to stir the pot, says that Nightwing isn't to blame for anything. He actually saved the day, which obviously, well, it's kind of true, but it's obviously they're spinning it in a certain way. But this is all just to provoke the police into letting them arm with super weapons. So we see these cops in jetpacks with shields and fancy guns. So this very much becomes a story about police brutality, where these jetpack cops go after the teddy bear gang and start just taking shots. In fact, they do that thing where they start basically just making the excuse for why they're firing their gun. We're like, hey, they literally just, they don't say, hey, police. They say, hey, you're resisting arrest. Yep, definitely
stop resisting.
Yeah. So they take some shots off, and Dick has to swoop in on his bike. Now, I do like that one of the bears did say, hey, Nightwing gave us this phone to call him. Should we call him for help since everyone's coming for us? And no, you heard him. He's working with this company. He's behind all this. So they're very mistrusting. But ultimately, one of these bear characters starts firing back at the cops, and Dick shows up just in time, and whatever. But it doesn't go well. The cop shields the bullets, and it fires off a big giant explosion at them, right? His ray gun or whatever it is. And the cop is just smiling and says, look at that, we've taken more scum off the streets. And Dick's freaking out and not happy with what they've just done. And then kind of the dark twist to this, and I actually kind of like how this mirrors the opening with the bunny and the robot, is that we find out that this teddy bear gang is mostly kids. It's not adults. Because they say, hey, we were cubs. We weren't full members yet. All the adults basically died with the boss. So we find out that these cops have just killed some kids with their brutality. So yeah, I think 14 they say the kid was that's dead.
Yeah. So, and then when you go back and you see them watching it, and there's a kid sitting on the floor, it changes the entire dynamic, the way you look at that scene, right? because he's sitting there like a kid who's watching cartoons. You know?
Yeah.
So, and then also the kid not listening to Nightwing, right? When he says, don't do that, right? These are, kids should be allowed to make mistakes. That's been a thing with Robin and Batman, all the way through. And so, Dan Waters driving that point home here again, because the cops are being way more aggressive than they need to be because they have this new technology, the Project Helios stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if this was like the regular Bloodhaven cops or if this was actually people that Spheric employed. It's like, oh, this is our force that the cops are letting us use now to police the streets. I wasn't clear on that. I don't know if it makes too much of a difference either way, but maybe a distinction is important later.
She says, allow me to introduce the new initiative in conjunction with the Bloodhaven Police Department, the Helios Project. So I'm assuming these are just cops, right? Because why would they need the police? Or unless they're deputized, they're like
I think it works either way. I was just curious if it's just literally regular police who now have this power, so they're immediately turning into this, or is this specifically guys that they've hired who are very trigger happy?
Right.
But yeah, so we get a bit more tease of the villain who's behind all this again. So obviously Spheric are the company behind it, but whoever's at the top of the chain who knows who Dick is and is calling him Circus Boy and whatnot. So, yeah, we see him again, just sort of like talking as he's watching Dick's reaction to this. So Dick is pissed, right? Dick ends this issue very angry, and that's the cliffhanger, if you will. I thought this was very good. I think the first part of this arc set up a lot of stuff really well. Like it established so much going on with the various gangs, the company, and like the main themes that it was playing with. I think this issue succeeded in being quite hard hitting between like the sort of the almost like, I don't want to say manipulative, but the almost more kind of childlike, oh, they did something bad to a bunny, so we instantly feel like anger towards them and sympathy for the rabbit. But then doing the more kind of like groundy, dark version of it later, where kids who were in a gang got killed by police who were trigger happy. Like it kind of like escalated in a really natural way, I thought, in this issue.
Yeah, and it goes in with what the bad guy's saying at the end, this dark clown. When he calls him the sweet circus boy who's not smiling anymore. And it's like, it's been so long that he's performed that he's forgot, like, when you're putting on a show, you have to make them, feel, and you got to make them feel the danger early. And that's exactly what Waters did here, right?
Yeah.
Where we drew the comparisons between the rabbit and the kids, and they're getting caught up in this, and it made us feel early. We understood the stakes at play here. So yeah, just masterful storytelling across the board. Yeah,
because it basically says, oh, you have to like tease the audience that you could fall at the start of the act so that they think there's an element of danger the entire time. That's exactly what Waters did. You're right. So art is very good as well. Dexter Soy is killing it, I think. A lot of great stuff, especially when Nightwing's running around on rooftops and jumping off of them.
Yes,
all that stuff looks great.
Anytime someone's in motion, the art looks like, I think Soy's art looks good in general, but when she's just doing the conference and the people are standing there, everything's kind of static. But then those cops come out and they're all in different angles, right? They're the arms and legs and everything. It brings a different sense of motion, and you need that in a Nightwing book, right? So then when you see Nightwing, moving around, there's an introduction there where he's upside down, right, coming through the rooftops and whatnot. It, in comparison to that page before it, it's again masterful storytelling across the board.
And I saw he's also having fun with the stuff with Dick on his motorbike. They always have to do the Akira slide and any of these things. It's not the exact same like angle on this one, but it's basically the same thing. They can't resist. They're all these nerds that like Akira, which, whatever. I think it's an overrated movie. But
it was dripping from your voice how you really feel.
Yeah, but like there's nothing wrong with someone skidding on a bike. It's fine. It looks good. So yeah, no, it's very good, and it's almost this idea again of like the way that the final scene plays out, where the kid in the mask takes the shot at the cops, and then it's like that's justification for them to fire this explosive at them. I feel like that's kind of like just a microcosm of what's going on in general, where the company's like, hey, this attack on our lab to try and steal our weapons, it forced the police to justify like enlisting us. So it's this idea of like, oh, we'll make the bad guy, or we'll make the opposition do something that justifies the thing we always wanted to do in the first place. Like there's a real element of that going on.
I believe that's called a false flag.
That makes sense.
They're running this, and again, we compared this to RoboCop, but it's very much like a subplot in RoboCop where they're making the criminals do this stuff so then they can respond, and they're arming both sides. You know,
I mean, there being a living thing inside the robot is very RoboCop actually. Just they never use bunnies in RoboCop, of course, but still, it's close enough.
If that's Verhoeven, that's a brain for sure. You know.
Yeah. Plus, you know, they've succeeded at us making us care about what's going on. We really hate the villains, and we really want to root for Dick to save the day. But it's only issue 2. We've got a whole arc to go, so at the very least, there's going to be 3 more chapters. So we're not ready to win yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. What are you giving Nightwing?
I made this an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm going 9. Okay. Yeah, really, really good. It's nice that Nightwing's in good hands after Taylor's run wrapped up. But I'm digging this arc so far.
Continues to be in good hands.
Yes, it's very, very good. So next up, Black Canary, Best of the Best, issue 1. Tom King writing with Ryan Sook on art. So our new Tom King miniseries starts. It's almost like an event every time one of this happens. Hold on. I clicked on a thing. All right, we're good. So I went full screen with something. I didn't want to be full screen, and it could have went bad. So this is issue 1 or round 1, and I do wonder if it's literally just going to be round 2 or round 3, especially since we have reason to believe that this will be 6 rounds long. By the end of this issue. It's a 6-issue book, so that makes a lot of sense.
As someone that came up watching boxing and MMA, and I am kind of out on it, I prefer professional wrestling at this point. 6 rounds of 6 minutes, that is a long fight.
Yeah,
right? Boxing rounds are about 2 to 3, depending on the organization. MMA is 5 minutes. So you're just like, oh my God, this is King setting the gauntlet for Shiva and Canary.
And this is something in between, because it's in a boxing ring, but they're doing kicks and stuff. It's no boxing gloves, so it's...
Yeah, no, and there's a suplex at one point.
That's true.
And an off-the-top rope maneuver. So, you know.
It seems like no superpowers, but other than that, like they can just go for it.
It's a free-form fight. It's a fight pit, you know?
But of course, they're both, you know, they're a super villain and a superhero, so I guess they can get a bit of extra time in the rounds. So the way this is structured is that, you know, it starts off with your announcer announcing the contestants, and the fight, the first round, I should say, plays out throughout the entire issue, and we go back to it over and over again, and the first round ends at the end of the issue. But there's the backstory playing throughout the book as well as we go, and I suspect that this is going to be what this entire book's going to be like, where issue 2 will be round 2 playing out, but with more of the next chapter of the story building up to the fight playing out. Or maybe they'll do some stories after the fight as well, and some of them, I don't know, but it feels like this is going to be the structure of the issues, though, is that the round's going to play out throughout, and we're going to see, like, flashbacks or whatever the main story is play out, sort of interspliced between it. So, you know, this is Dinah arriving in the town, turns out to be her hometown, where, you know, she goes to see her mother. It takes her a few pages to get to there, admittedly, but, you know, we see her arrive at the airport, you know, get into the car, go on the ferry, and she goes to Drake's flower shop, which, you know, ends up being her mother's shop. And as this is happening, you know, all the narration is the announcer talking about, you know, introducing the fighters. And I noticed here, they were doing the Michael Buffer thing of, like, you know, thousands are in the building here in Vegas, but millions are watching at home. But I was like, you can't say, let's get ready to rumble, because he charges for that. You can't use that phrase without his blessing, and I mean, I don't know what he charges just for using the phrase. I know that to get him to show up and say it, it costs $250,000.
Yes, it's a lot.
Yeah, and I only know that because I'm aware in various stories I've heard about WCW spending money they shouldn't. One of the things they were spending money on a lot was him to show up for pay-per-views to say that. Yep. And it's like, that's 250. That's more than what you pay a lot of the wrestlers per year. And he's just showing up to say one phrase.
Also, let me just tell you, they're at the Emperor's Palace Casino, which is supposed to be Caesar's. Big time old fight. There's
is that another trademark thing? They can't use the real name?
Probably. It's Caesar's Entertainment's probably a thing. However, they're saying that it's an arena that holds 200,000.
That's not an arena. That's a stadium. That's a huge stadium.
Yes, mind you, the largest stadium that we have here is called the Big House. It's where Michigan plays, and it holds about 101,000. I think the Rose Bowl holds about the same. That's a lot of people. So again, I feel it's King showing how big and and this world hyperbole actually exists.
I mean,
so we can do this.
It's just inflating it to make it sound even bigger than anything that we really have. Yeah. Or it sounds like one of the venues that Tommy Tallarico claims that he's played at. But I'm sorry. Yeah, you don't get that. No. So, okay, it's a weird tangent backstory to explain that joke for anyone who doesn't get it. All right, so Tommy Tallarico is a composer who does video game music. And that's not particularly interesting in and of itself. However, the YouTuber H-Bomber guy did a huge journalistic piece on him a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. They basically just looked into this fact that Tommy Tallarico is a pathological liar who lies about everything, and he always says he was on MTV Cribs. He wasn't. It was some sort of British show that was just kind of like Cribs, but he always says Cribs. He claims that he was the first American to work on Sonic. The Sonic game he worked on was in 2009, and that is simply not true. People worked on Sonic 2 in 1991 in California. He claims that he did this, he did that. But one of the things that he's done since he stopped making music, although there's a lot of he probably just hired other people at his company to write the music, and he just takes credit for it. But one of the things that he did after he stopped making music, quote unquote, for video games, is he put on a show called Video Game Live, where he has a band and an orchestra perform music in the tour, right? And one of the big lies that he said at one point, which I was directly referencing there, is that he claimed that they played to an audience in China to a crowd of 300,000 people, which is an absurd number of people.
Yes.
And people have looked into it and okay, we're and apparently the arena he played in could only sit 10,000 people, but the number keeps inflating, and that's the best part of it, is that he said 100,000, he said 200,000, and he said 300,000. So that's what this made me think of. It made me think of Tommy Tallarico inflating these numbers.
It's like the Silver Dome, that it just keeps holding more and more people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and the other thing is he's got 7 Guinness World Records, and they're all bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole organization that prints this stuff that you can double check pretty easy.
Yeah, but one of them is he's worked on the most video games than any other human being or something like that, 250 games, but someone tried to actually count them all out, and they can barely get to 80 or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's a really entertaining YouTube video anyway, just because the depth of the lies is fantastic.
What is it about video game stuff that brings out that type of person? Because he sounds like Billy Mitchell from King of Kong.
You know what? He's very He's worse than Billy Mitchell, honestly, though. But he's very Billy Mitchell.
You know what I mean? What is it that amplifies these type of personalities and draws them towards video games?
Sure, I don't think it is. That to me, this just sounds like a politician. It just so happens that in the video game industry, he's just doing interviews where he's gloating about stuff and people fact check him. To me, this is exactly the sort of guy that I could see as just a slimy politician who's lying about stuff constantly to get things put through. So I don't know. I don't think it is specifically in the video game industry. I just think that it's easier to just prove and make fun of them in the video game industry. I guess
so.
I don't know. Anyway, that was an obscure reference that I thought I'd explain for your sake.
Yeah, so
probably most of the audience's sake.
Yeah. I do love you can tell that King did some research with how they do introductions like this, because I could feel the rhythm of the announcer.
Or maybe he just watches a lot of boxing. I mean, it's possible too.
Well, but it also felt like, in professional wrestling where they do the big, big fight feel type of announcing, using the nicknames and stuff, like where they're talking about Shiva, it says when Batman fell, he required a mentor, someone he knew who was better than him, who could show him the path to perfection. Right. And, turn to the assassin's assassin, the undefeated. And it's just, there's a patter to it that felt very authentic.
Yeah. How do they know that to say that is another question. But I assume
there's a lot in this book that the announcers seem to know that they should not know.
I assume Shiva just told them that because, of course, she would brag about it. Because why wouldn't she? But we see Dinah interacting with her mother. And she comments on the blonde hair, which is a great setup for later. Because Dinah Drake, traditionally anyway, from what I know, like she would be brunette, but she'd put on a blonde wig when she was Black Canary. Yep, that was her whole thing.
That's what inspired the Batgirl on the Adam West wearing the wig.
Very good. Yeah, okay.
So
that was her whole shtick, and Dinah comments on it and says, "Oh, you're blonde even here," and it's actually a really good setup for a later reveal in the issue. So very, very nice. And we get this idea, it's a small town, this girl comes up and asks for Dinah's autograph, and she's like, hey, what about my mom? She's the original Black Canary. And the kid, I was expecting the kid to be mean or something, and she's just like, yeah, I've already got her autograph. Like, I love your mom, she's great. And the mom's like,
yours.
The mom's like, yeah, it's a small town, Dinah. I've signed like 5 things for every single person who lives here. Like like I'm old news. Like you're the exciting one. Go on. And Dinah's like, yeah, you shouldn't stay up and watch the fight, kid. There's going to be a lot of blood. So the fight's coming, right? And it turns out the reason why she's came to see her mom is she wants her mom to help her train. It's a very sort of like, there's better options. I could go to Batman. I could go to all these other characters in the Justice League. But I want my Mickey, which is you. So you're going to help me fight. And I think you do get the mum, like, Dinah Drake. I say the mum because like, it's awkward having 2 Dinahs. She kind of takes that as like, oh, you're being condescending, you want to make me feel like I'm being important and helping, but I'm old, like I can't help you the way that other people can help you, go get whoever, like you're literally on the Birds of Prey by Cassandra Cain, like she can help you train to fight here. Why am I doing this? And it adds a whole extra layer to it when you find out later that she's got cancer and that she's dying here. Now, whether or not Dinah knows that, I'm not sure.
I think she does.
You think so?
There's that reveal at the end.
Oh, true. No, you're right. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, because at the end she's doing something to save her. You're right. But in the moment I wasn't sure though, because I could have read like, oh, she doesn't know that her mother's dying, and
In the moment it is like, so she does the what's up with the blonde, and then she's like, you don't have to treat me like this. There's a lot being not said. And you just think like, oh, mom's being old. It's whatever.
Yeah, there's this subtext there. Yeah, no, it's really well written, and that.
Once you get there, and then you say, oh no, and then she mentions, oh, Ted's gonna come by. He's supposed to come by anyways, right? Who's an old friend of mom from the Justice Society days. So there's all of that undercurrent too. That there's something that's a little bit off, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really well set up, right? And I did think of Connor here a little bit, because I knew Connor would whine about something, which is when we get to the commentator. So once the ring announcer's done with his bit, right, about halfway through the issue, it switches to the commentators, and we meet these 2 guys, and it's their conversation backwards and forwards that ends up being the narration for a lot of the rest of the issue. And them debating, like the chances that either of them have, and the big thing is, of course, is that Black Canary's the underdog here, and people aren't really expecting her to last. Like, people aren't taking bets on who's going to win. They're taking bets on which round Canary's going to go down in.
Yes.
Because that's where the money would be. So, which is, again, smart setup for something that's revealed later. But, like, all of that's really good. Although I did think of Connor, because I thought Connor would be completely bitching his ass off right now about how much, like, dialogue there is because of these commentators. Because you go to the scenes where it's back to the flashbacks, and you'll have the narration boxes with the commentators' conversation, and then the dialogue in the scene, and I could just hear Connor whining in the distance.
That too, but also he watches sports, so he knows that's how that goes. That's just, and you're gonna use the fight to also cover, like, let's say you're putting together like a real sports package, right? You're gonna use stuff from fights and commentary to tell the story that's being told outside, right? So as a person that loves both, art stuff and also sports stuff, this weirdly felt like a perfect combination of both. Like,
yeah, it worked really well for me because a lot of the fluff, because ultimately commentators are just talking a lot of fluff most of the time, right? They're just trying to hype things up. They're trying to like sell the story of the fight and whatever. But what's so fun about it here in the storytelling is that a lot of the things they set up, they're not intentionally doing for the audience, but they're setting things up for us because we get to see Dinah's personal life. So when they say things like, oh, Dinah isn't going to make it very far, or she's like, why is she doing this? She's going to go down early, like how many rounds is she going to make it? Like, there's no money in betting her to win or to make it very far. It sets up the idea that if Dinah can make it to round 6 and go down intentionally, that she would stand to make a lot of money from that if she's colluding with someone, which we find out she is.
Yes.
Which is obviously not a good thing to do. It's a corrupt thing to do. But the motivation for her is to get money to try and help save her mum. So there's
not just money, but also a cure.
A cure, yeah. Which yeah, because if it was just money, I suppose she'd just go to Bruce and be like, hey, hey, Batman, can you lend me some cash? I've got some emergency medical issues to deal with. So like having like the mother-daughter like sparring in the boxing ring that's in the barn that her mum's got, there's a really good like Mickey Rocky kind of dynamic to like, okay, we're not doing, because they even mention, Shiva's got like a whole army of assassins training her right now, and all I could think was Drago with all the scientists in Rocky 4 with like the heart rate monitors and like, we're examining every little detail of like his anatomy as he's doing all this. No, Canary wants to just spar with her mother in like a barn, and like that's the training she wants and potentially needs.
And in that it is setting up the, like you said, Drago and Rocky, that he has all, Drago has all of these things that Rocky doesn't. So what does Rock have to do? He has to find a way, right? And that's what feels like what Canary's doing here. But then when you get the tag that mom's sick.
Well, more specifically though, she has to find so Drago has all of these things that Rocky doesn't. Right? What does Rocky have that Drago doesn't? He has people that he cares about that can motivate him. That he has love, passion, all that stuff, and that's what Dinah's doing. She's doing this for a purpose she like believes passionately for. Right? She's like doing this for her mother. So,
but it also feels like here, like this is just her spending extra time with her mom. Right? It's not even about the training. It's like me, you, the way that it was. So once you look back there, it's not just for the training. This is, her spending time, what she wants to do with mom, which is nice. Yeah.
So, and the fighting in the ring does look good. And there's some comedy here as well, which is fun, where like Shiva kicks like really quick or something like that. And the commentator's like, oh my, that was so fast that even the Flash would be jealous of that. And you see like a TV with the fight playing, and you just like a speech bubble coming from off panel saying, wait, why would I be jealous? Like my like her fastest is like 165,000 times slower than my fastest. Why would I be jealous? And like someone else is just like, Barry, it's a metaphor. Just let it go. And you get this 2-page panel of like all the various Justice Leaguers watching, and someone says, Ollie, why is she doing this? And Ollie's like, I have no effing idea.
You think I effing know? Yeah.
Which is funny. So yeah, just looking at this page, obviously you can see Barry over on the right hand side moving quick as he's like sort of juking and jiving. You see Vixen, Martian Manhunter, Plastic Man? Or Elongated Man?
That's Elongated Man.
Yeah, I'm thinking Elongated because of the hair.
That's Ralph.
You've got Linda, I think, off to... Is that Linda off to the left?
I'm thinking that's Donna.
Could be Donna, yeah.
Donna. Who's next to Donna, though? Or not Donna. Who's next to Elongated Man?
That, honestly, I wasn't sure of this myself, because I was looking around and I can see Clark, I can see Flash, I can see Hal and John, I can see Aquaman with Mira in the back. But also, Mira in like civilian clothes is a weird visual. I don't know.
we're not used to it.
Yeah, she looks like she's like a housewife from a TV show or something. It's weird.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, is that Bruce stuff in his face? It doesn't feel like Bruce-like activity. I feel like he'd be standing all stoic, but...
Also, Bruce has darker hair. This guy's got brown hair. He's got really hairy forearms on top of it, too.
Is this Ted, maybe? Is this maybe Ted?
Maybe. But Ted to me would... There's no world where Ted's not at the fight with Dinah. You know what I mean?
Maybe she didn't let him come, though. Like, that's...
Maybe?
Yeah, that's possible.
That's who it feels like. But the fact that he's sitting next to Ralph makes me think that it's somebody from Justice League International or, something along those lines. But but everyone else seems to be there. Dinah looks bored. Clark's cooking hot dogs with his heat vision. Lois is next to him. It looks like Raven standing next to Cyborg.
Is that maybe Raven? I guess that's the best guess I could come up with as well, I suppose.
That's who I would guess. But
is that just because she's got like a slightly purple shirt on?
Purple and kind of the hair, that's I feel like a current Raven cut, right? So,
yeah, because I might have guessed it was Hal's stuff in his face if it wasn't for Hal's clearly in the background with John with the green ring on.
Yes. The ring on in his classic bomber jacket.
Because I could see Hal's stuff in his face at a party.
Oh, for sure.
But Bruce, nah. I'm genuinely at a loss. I thought that maybe the toy in front of him was like a hint, but like I couldn't but it's because that's a black
toy. That's the Atom.
Oh, it's maybe the Atom. I thought it was a toy.
That's the Atom. Yeah.
I thought that was a toy with the Black Canary shirt on.
Yeah, no, that is the Atom. He's eating chips, but they're massive.
This is why it's so important to have them in their outfits.
Color code. Power Ranger rules.
Power Ranger rules, yes, absolutely. Okay, if he's... Yeah, I feel like it has to be someone that... Not that who there's next is important necessarily, but I feel like it has to be someone that hangs out with Adam.
I know who it is.
Who is it?
Looking at Leah Comic Geeks, they'll list all of these
the characters. Okay, who is it?
Right. Apparently, next to Cyborg, that's Kendra Saunders. That's Hot Girl. Makes sense. Justice Society, whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's Carter. That's Hawkman.
It's Hawk. Do you know what? It does look Hawkman stubble. I can see it.
Yes. The stubble. Of course, he's feeding his face. Yes. So that checks out.
That's fair enough. That fits his character. Yeah.
So, anyways, to the fight.
Yeah, I know that was not important at all, but yes,
but we figured it out, with a little bit of help.
Yeah, which does make me wonder, where's the rest of the Birds of Prey?
Good question.
Maybe we'll see them watching next issue. That's entirely possible. Or are they? I don't know. Are they somewhere close to the building, perhaps? I mean, assuming they play into it at all, but I feel like at the very least, I'd expect Babs to be there.
Yes. There's no way that Babs is not paying attention to her best friend and not co-owner, but you know what I mean? The person that runs the birds with her, her teammate.
Yeah, like I don't know if they're going to necessarily reference the current lineup of Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
I don't expect that necessarily, but I do think, given that we're talking about, her love life with Ollie, the fact that her mother's dying, I suspect that her best friend Babs is probably going to play a role in some form here or there. But anyway, so but Dinah and her mother have a bit of a fight because she doesn't want to talk about what's going on in her life, and Dinah's like, okay, fine, ask me about Oliver and I'll lie about him, which I thought was a funny line. So yeah, basically Shiva's been kicking Canary's ass throughout most of round one, and to the point where she starts gloating and getting up in the top rope and hot dogging, and she goes to do a crossbody off the top rope, and basically Dinah just moves out the way at the last possible second, and the commentators go, oh, she's still got fight in her. Okay, all right, okay, there's maybe more to this. And it's right here when we get the flashback where Dinah's leaving the house to go out for a walk, and we see Dinah Drake pull off the wig to reveal that she's bald under there. So it says a lot visually. You get what's going on.
Well, and she's on a behind closed doors too, right? So there's a thing that we're being let into this at this point.
Yeah, it's something that she's not even let her daughter see. Even if her daughter knows what's going on, she's not letting her see her like this, which is something to note out as well. So Dinah goes to a bar for a drink, and it kind of teases that she's talking to someone, and we don't really know who it is to start with, as Dinah and Shiva are beating the shit out of each other in the ring. And Dinah is definitely still the underdog, but she's definitely holding her own more than I think Shiva was expecting. But yeah, we basically get this conversation about, it's like, we're paying you, we're not paying you for this or that. Like, oh no, we're paying you, you're paying me to go down the 6th. That's what you're paying me for. And I love that, because to be honest, if they hadn't like given me the little clue, I might not have been sure who this was because of the way he's dressed. But the commentator's saying, oh, this is barbaric, this is this is that. And then as you turn the page, as you see this guy that she's talking to for the first time, it says Savage. And I'm like, oh, it does look like Vandal Savage. Yeah. But he's dressed like Tony Montana, which is throwing me off a little bit.
Definitely a look.
Yeah. He's got the chains on, he's got the shirt kind of half open, and he's eating chicken wings or whatever it is. So yeah, it's like, okay, she's doing this, she's getting paid, and she's going to get this cure for her mum. If she goes down in round 6, so it's a fixed fight. And Joe, what I love about this is that they announced this book, and it's like, okay, it's going to be Canary get into a fight, right? Like a televised fight, like a match, and it's okay. That's a fun premise, I guess, but you don't really know what the layers are to it or what the weight is. And I loved it by the end of this issue. It's told us that she's not even getting with the intention of winning. That's not even the point. So that makes the fight more interesting. What's her motivations? And it adds this personal touch where it's actually about her trying to save her mother who has got cancer. Well, I presume cancer. They don't tell us that, but that's my assumption.
Yeah, but all the clues are there,
So, and no one else knows why she's doing it, and they're all reacting to it. Like, I feel like this was absolutely what you wanted from a first issue of this, because it made it so much more interesting than the premise initially was. Not that the premise wasn't cool, it was cool, but that's all it was. By the end of this issue, I'm like, oh no, I'm so invested, I care, there's like so much going on here, like there's so many gears turning as to what's making all this click together and work. I'm invested, so...
Yeah, and the way that Tom King would talk about this in interviews was like, oh no, this is just to give Ryan Sook, like, let him draw what he wants to draw. There's no hint of a much bigger story going on here, right? Like a more personal story for Dinah.
Yeah, this might end up being a defining story for her now, which, maybe shouldn't be surprising, because that ended up being, I mean, we literally just talked about Women of Tomorrow turning into a movie and becoming one of the most important Supergirl stories. So it's not surprising that the story of Dinah trying to save her mother from a natural death is maybe going to hit hard. And I'm also possibly the ending to this, like, if obviously there's a long way to go, we don't know what directions it's going to take, but part of me feels that the right ending to this might be that she can't save her. Like that's going to be the hard hitting ending. Is like, no, like it's her time and she has to go and she has to accept it. Yeah,
you can fight and fight and fight, but some things you can't. It's the whole Pa Kent dying of a heart attack versus something that was preventable. There's only so much that Clark can do. And that'd be kind of the message here with Dinah, is like, you can fight and you can have all the fight in the world, but when it's your time, it's your time. And part of learning to fight is knowing when to stop. You know? And if her mom's at the end and feels like this is her time, there's nothing that Dinah can do about that.
Yeah, that's going to be such an important story for Black Canary if it sticks the landing. It really could be. And I loved, we kind of glossed over a lot of the other fight stuff, but I loved the bit from the commentators where the one guy's describing that, Canary normally gets to rely on her Canary cry, so typically she won't, she'll hold back in a way because she can use that to get herself out of a jam, but she can't use that here. So she's at like a disadvantage because she's not used to fighting without it. And I thought that was actually that's doing what wrestling commentators are supposed to do, which is to help tell the story about what's going on in the ring of like, oh, she's struggling with this because she usually has this to lean on, but she can't do that right now.
Right. It's the, currently and with AEW, it's Osprey, having issues because he got dropped on his head with a Tiger Driver, a move that he swore he would never do. Again, right? But his protege, his former best friend, hit him with it, and now he's all out of sorts, and that killer instinct's gone, and he couldn't get it up if he wanted to, because, and it's all the stuff that, if paying full attention, you'll get, but the story is being given more depth by the commentary, going into there and pointing things out. But yeah, no, I like that with talking about her Canary cry, that she always has this ace card, and here she can't use it, because they agreed no superpower type stuff. But also some of the poses here are just like perfect encapsulations of like not even pro wrestling, but of just fighting in general. Like you brought up the crossbody, right? But the suplex that Shiva hits on her is typical, something that you see in like collegiate wrestling or Olympic freestyle wrestling, And then to bring it back to pro wrestling, when Shiva gets back up after, she misses that crossbody and elbow drop, it looks like she's flying in for a V trigger. Her pose. I've seen Kenny hit this pose, and it's done with such, it looks like if she hits this, it's over, and the commentary is really putting that over. But yeah, no, just the art here is doing a lot, especially with the more mundane stuff of like Dinah walking to that bar in the rain. It just really sets a mood.
Yeah, there's a lot of mood and atmosphere in it. You really get the sense of like, I don't know, like, even when she was saying goodbye to her mother, there was this sense of, hey, I'm leaving, you're going to be okay while I'm out for a bit, like, which feels like she's concerned for her. There's kind of this like babying of her, and like just sort of a natural, nice way, nothing bad about it, but
yeah,
kind of a natural thing that you might do if you're someone is sick and you're looking after them. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really good stuff going on here that hit really well for me. I mean, Tom King tends to be really good with these issue ones, and I think this one kind of knocked it apart. Here's a question I have, though, going forward.
Yeah.
Do you think we see some of, like, Shiva's side of this? Do we see, like, why she's doing this? If there is a reason beyond just she wants to do the fight. Does she know that it's a work?
I don't know. I don't know if she would agree to that, right?
She might not. I don't know, but I just wonder if we get an issue from her perspective, maybe in the middle, where it says, hey, here's Shiva's backstory for the fight, and there's some interesting things revealed there.
I don't know, because this is Black Canary best of the best, right?
I mean, I know. So, that's why I'm saying one issue rather than,
I don't know. I think given that we know that Dinah's on the take, I don't know if we're going to get the other side to that, right? I think we're just going to have Shiva as this obstacle, right? That, she has to not necessarily overcome, but it's, she's gonna have to take the fall. And well, is Shiva gonna be keen to that, right? Well, yeah, is there gonna be some fallout?
At the very least, I think Shiva's going to know when it happens that Canary, but that'll be round 6. I wonder. There's a really interesting dynamic here that like Canary has to survive to get to round 6 in the first place, and people don't even think she can do that. So she still has to overcome stuff to get there. But how is Shiva going to feel feeling like Canary's actually fought her beyond the limit that she thought she could go, only to throw it away?
Yeah.
In round 6.
Or the fact that, Canary's holding back. Why are you holding back? And that is what clicks to Shiva. And we get a conversation between them while they're fighting here. Stop holding back. Don't. You're better than this. And I don't know, maybe that's the appeal too that gets through to Shiva as she appeals to, it's from my mom. Right, and we're getting a little bit more development with Shiva in other books, right? And like that Batgirl book that's coming out.
Yeah, that was actually the thing that got me thinking as well. Like, well, I don't expect it to necessarily address the current like Birds of Prey lineup. I did sort of think, well, like Cass is kind of relevant here if she does come up, and it wouldn't shock me if we bring her in at some point, but. This was excellent. I mean, unsurprisingly, it was excellent. I mean, I expected to like it, but it's the sort of thing where, for some reason, a lot of these Tom King books, I don't necessarily go in expecting an excellent comic. I just assume it's going to be good, but I don't necessarily get hyped for it. And then by the time I'm finished issue 1, I'm like, oh, he's onto something. He's tapped into something that I wasn't seeing coming, and it's really good.
Yeah, because I had the expectation this will be a fun book to read. It's essentially a long fight sequence, and then we started hitting at the personal reasons. Right, and Canary going back home, and I'm like, oh, I got worked. This might be a defining Canary book, for where she is. So, and that's good. King's really good at those, so why not? Yeah,
and I do expect a bit more elaboration on like corrupt got Vandal Savage,
Yes.
like yuppie Vandal Savage, who's like into fixing fights.
Who does, and like, 'cause I know I'm typically more the Vandal Savage guy. He has a scar on his face as well that runs across his left eye. I don't typically remember that in Vandal Savage. So again, another Scarface.
I wonder if that's something that maybe we see. Maybe we'll get a flashback to how Vandal Savage ended up with this stuff. But yeah, all right, and yeah, I mean we talked about the art a bit. It is fantastic. Sook's a great artist. The fighting stuff's great, but I think the more impressive parts are probably the one-on-one character stuff. Like you said, the mood of her walking to the bar, and even just being in the big puffy jacket as she takes a sip out of the glass. There's a lot of little kind of like subtle touches to things that just feel very down low key and like. And in the same way, we keep kind of bringing up Rocky in various ways, but I think one of the elements of Rocky that makes it work is that it is this very down to earth kind of character in a very down to earth real world. So, there's the Justice League are watching on TV and they mention, oh, this fight's being beamed to like planets all across the galaxy. So there's 300,000 languages being translated at once. I'm like, all right, you could have just said 5,000 languages and it still sounded impressive, but we went with 300,000. All right.
Well, and then that makes the smaller human stuff stand out more. Right?
Yeah. I suppose that's a good point. Yeah, it's like all that stuff sounds ridiculously inflated, but the actual heart of the book is a very simple personal story that's easy to understand. It's someone trying to find a way to save a dying loved one that might not be able to be saved. And I see a lot of great potential for the end of this story. I don't know what the middle issues are all going to be necessarily, but that's kind of exciting because I'm like, okay, what other wrenches is he going to throw in along the way? So, what are you rating Black Canary best of the best?
I'm going to give this a 9.
Yeah, I think I need to go 9.5. The only reason why I think I'm not even going as high as the 10 is purely just because it is a bit wordy because there is so much dialogue and narration boxes, but it's really the only flaw I think I can give it because everything else, the premise is so much more interesting by the time you finish the issue than when you started it, and that's such a victory in and of itself. So yeah, exciting stuff. All right, Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, number 3, Jeph Loeb writing with Mark Chiarello on art. Chiarello. There you go. That'll do. So yes, we have more Last Halloween stuff. Interestingly, this book starts with the attempted murder of Christmas Eve with the Riddler at the start of this issue, rather than ending with one. And seemingly he survives just like the Penguin did, and it's possible that even Harvey survived from the Zero issue.
But it's almost as if he survived to send a message. Not the message of that he gives Batman, but as a, no one's untouchable, because they leave it the fact that he can't talk, he probably can't write because they broke his hand. So, they hint at the Enigma knows who's behind all of this. And so you get these guys showing up as he's looking at puzzles, in these Batman masks, which look like they're straight from the Silver Age. Which matches what James Jr. was wearing on Halloween, right?
That's something that Gordon and Batman point out when they're investigating the crime scene. No, but I just think it's interesting that at least 2 of the victims have definitely survived so far. Like it's not just like one that survived. Like both Riddler and Penguin have definitely survived. So that's interesting to me. I do actually really like the when Riddler's kind of lying in the ambulance and Batman and Robin have to kind of overtake the ambulance to interrogate him while he's on the way to Arkham. I do kind of like how Riddler gives him a riddle with Morse code because he can't speak, and the riddle's oh, when was a car accident not actually an accident or something like that, and the answer is when there's no dent, and dent's bolded, and I'm like, oh, that's an exciting answer to that. So that sends Batman off to investigate what's going on with the dents, and he actually finds the kid this issue. Amazingly, Gilda like, she doesn't know where Harvey is, and that's kind of why I was thinking he might still be alive. But yeah, it turns out she was forced by this group, whoever's doing this, to look after James Gordon Jr. So he's actually been at her house for the last couple of months, and
behind a false wall too, right? Like
yeah. So they actually reunite him with his father this issue, so that part of it's wrapped up. But there's a lot of stuff here, like the FBI's here and like giving Gordon a hard time and not really wanting to cooperate with Batman. So that's going on.
Well, they Gordon wants to have him go to where's he tell him to the hospital, but the FBI tell him no, take him to Arkham.
Yeah, the hospital's closer, so they don't want to risk like having Riddler at the hospital with public. Right. So if he dies, he dies. Just take him to Arkham. I will say the art. I do enjoy the art in these scenes. I do think kind of the moodiness of like the characters being each other's faces with the shadows in their face is quite good. But I especially like the scene where Batman and Robin are kind of like invading the ambulance, and there's that full page spread of Batman landing on top of the ambulance, because there's this nice touch of the Christmas lights in the background. It's not even a lot of them, it's just a few lights dangling from one
strand,
building.
yeah, and they're red and green, and there's snow falling, right? So yeah, man, I know what they're doing with this book. It's an homage to Sale, right? But so far this Chiarello stuff feels like the most heir apparent, right? This feels like the vibe of Long Halloween and Dark Victory, in the right way. So here, because like you said, the moodiness, the shadows, everything at play feels very much like Sale.
Atmosphere-wise, I'd say yes. I would still say the artist on issue 1 was probably the closest line-wise to me, like line work wise. But I mean, at this point, it's kind of splitting hairs, obviously.
Do you remember who that was?
Oh, not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, let me go back and look.
Couldn't tell you at all. But it's a nice little thing as well, the 2-page layout when they're getting Riddler to like try and communicate this riddle to them. They have these puzzle piece panels at the top and bottom of Riddler's eyes opening and closing, because that's the Morse code. And it's actually Robin who recognizes that it's Morse code. So Robin's proven himself to be useful again. But afterwards, and again, I love that the yellow cape is on an otherwise silhouette of Robin and like a pretty much all silhouette of Batman. Robin's told to go with the ambulance to Arkham, make sure it gets there, but then wait for Alfred to pick him up. He's not to go inside Arkham, but of course he does, and we get the callback panel to Killing Joke, where he's going past the doors, and you've got Unknown and some of the other names, and like you hear Joker laughing from the Unknown one. But he actually goes back into Calendar Man's cell, which is obviously what happened back in issue 1, I say. And he's like, "Oh, you're back," and Robin wants to know whatever. He's like, "Hey, what's going on here?" But before he even has a chance to have a conversation, a whip comes in and grabs his hand, and it's Catwoman. And Catwoman's like, "Get out now!" And he's like, "You're not the boss of me." He's like, "Oh, you're very smart, Robin, but if he knew that I was letting you talk to Calendar Man, he would not be happy. So, like, I'm not letting you do this." But my favorite part of this scene, though, that I really liked, is that when she's saying, like, putting her foot down, saying "get out," Robin says, "I'm not like him getting all googly-eyed whenever you show up." I love the reaction panel of Catwoman smirking and going, "Googly-eyed," because I love this idea that, well, she knows that Batman's into her. The idea of Robin kind of admitting that he notices it, like, he always seems to get off like smitten whenever you've been around. He acts differently. Like, her hearing that confirmation makes her smirk in a way that I found very satisfying.
It's the same vibe of him. He said that about me.
Yeah. It's pretty much that. But it's all in the art, pretty much. So no, really like that. So good. Yeah, and then it's the scene of Batman going to the Dent house, and they really play with the teal and the orange here, because it's the art's all teal, but then when the hidden door opens and it's just this orange light coming through, so it really, the contrast and it really pops. Yeah,
I love what the colors. I think Chiarello did the colors too. I love the story that's being told with the colors here, because like the stuff when like Arkham's very like light greens and whites until Catwoman shows up and then goes to purples.
Yeah, a lot of lavender looking colors.
Yeah. And then we get here, like you said, the teal and the orange. And then in the following scene, when Batman goes to Roman's penthouse, it's browns and reds. So just a lot of the stuff that's playing with the colors is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. And even like a nice little touch actually is in that panel with the hidden door opening. It's the orange light coming through. There's one little bit of orange in the panel before it, and it's the click sound effect of the hidden button that opens the door. So it's just this little connection of like, oh, this is the click that opens the door. So the colors match. It's a really nice little touch. Yeah. So yeah, like you say, he goes to Falcone's place, and Mario Falcone's the only one that's alive still. And you know, he's like, oh, I'm the good one. I'm the good boy. I'm the good Falcone. Like, yeah. So, but Batman's there to question him, and he tries to shoot him. He's got the exact same type of gun that the Holiday Killer keeps using,
and it's taped up. So it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, but we also know that these guys that have been going around trying to kill people have also been using that. Right. So, honestly, it's kind of unclear right now as to who's responsible for what attempted murder in this book. Like, is it all the same people, or is it different groups? It's actually hard to tell. But there's a bit of a struggle while he's holding the gun. We hear like the shot go off, and we see that he's killed Well, he's not killed Batman. He's shot Batman, is what I meant to say.
Right in the shoulder. Yeah.
So that blood really pops on that page as Batman's holding his wound. But yeah, he's like, hey, you've always been blind to the dents and what they're up to. You have no idea what they've done to my family. And the issue ends with him holding the gun to Batman's head, and he says as he's doing it, "I am the good son," which might mean that he's went a little bit crazy if he really believes that, but it's it's an ominous moment to end the issue on.
Yeah, but he is the good son, right? That means he's not going to shoot Batman.
Then why is he pointing the gun at Batman's head?
Right, to let him know I could have, but I'm not going to.
I mean, I'm
not the guy you're looking for.
Yeah, maybe it literally starts next issue with him pulling the gun away. I don't know.
But the idea that he wanted the Falcone name, that Mario here wanted to go above his dad, what Carmine had, that he wanted to be up there with the Waynes, So that it shows some of his ambition here, that he wanted to clear the name, but his family keeps getting in the way.
Yeah. Just some great stuff in the art in this scene, like Batman picking up two pool balls and throwing them at some of the guards, or when Mario comes through the door and like the room behind him is just white with the Christmas tree, whilst it's all just kind of like sort of light brown and black for the panel that he's walking into, but you can see Batman like standing behind the door. Just little things like that. It's really simple. It's not like complicated art. It's just really effective art.
Yeah.
So yeah, really no complaints. Gorgeous looking book. I think it advances the story in some interesting ways. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think this book has done anything wrong. Yeah, and I feel like everyone's waiting for it to do something wrong because Loeb's track record for the past couple of decades has been a bit
ropey. But when he's locked in, he's really locked in. Like, so if he wants us to be at that level, I feel like he's still capable of it, and so far he hasn't proven us wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we suspect this was ready or had been planned to come out years ago, but obviously Tim Sale's death pushed things back.
Yeah.
At the very least, that might suggest that he's had time to like look over the script for a lot
fine-tune
longer.
It.
Yeah, than maybe normal.
Well, and working with other creators too that aren't Tim Sale, right? They're bringing something else to it as well.
Yeah,
they're getting different artists, right? So if they're, it is collaborative, so they're putting stuff in, and so again, it's showing how comics as this collaborative format can bring out the best in everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, Batman knew to look into the dents, which has sort of set him on a new path of investigation. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see what comes with the New Year's issue, I assume.
That'd be the next holiday.
Yeah. Unless they want to get back to Halloween for issue 10, in which case they might... Because I was thinking maybe they'll bundle like two holidays together. Because, they didn't, obviously, but Christmas and New Year's are close enough that you could have... set a story that spans both of them, but that did not happen. So I'm expecting next time will be New Year's. So we'll see how that goes. What are you giving Last Halloween?
I'm going to give this a solid 8.5.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time justifying going up or down from that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll agree with that. 8.5 for Last Halloween. Cool. Batman Santa Claus Silent Night Returns issue 1. Jeph Parker writing with Lukas Ketner on the art. So yeah, this is a weird thing that came back. I'm not mad that it came back by any means. But definitely just a lighter read at the end of a long list of heavy books.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're basically some big evil thing is stalking people and like turning them to stone, or like grabbing them and like
No, mummifying them.
Yeah, they're sucking the life force out of them.
Sucking their life force out of them. Yeah.
I will I'm going to I hate to start with a critique, but it's on the very first page. What they are is that, I mean, maybe the point here is that the character's aging rapidly or something.
Yeah.
But like it does look like a 12-year-old in that top panel. It looks like Damien basically, and then in the panel in the bottom, it looks like a middle-aged man. Now, I assume that is intentional, but I do think maybe something to, I don't know, bridge the two to make it clear that this is an active change that's happening, as opposed to, I don't know, because like initially, until later on, where it became clear like what was happening to these people when they were being grabbed by these hands in the ground, I don't know. It felt like a mistake at the start that they look so different in age. But
there's that too. But if you look at the guys behind him too, they look kind of young in that. So maybe that's just a flaw in the art here.
Yeah, I think there might be a bit of a hiccup there, but yeah. So. Yeah, the Justice League are already on it though, because we see the green beam come down and that's going on. But we cut to Zatanna, and it's Christmas time, obviously, and she's basically saying, "Hey, something's going on, and people are dying around the planet, like, or getting mummified specifically." And Damien taps on her window and is like, "Hey, I need your help. The Justice League have tracked this enemy, and like, we need some like magical intervention. Like, we already know who's behind the mummifications, but we need a way to like fight him or take him down." So he explains what happened, and we see the Justice League like fighting this guy. Again, kind of an interesting team here of a Justice League, where you've got Superman, Batman, you've got John Stewart, you've got Nubia, you got Mira, and then you've got Thunderheart. You got Irie, yeah, Wally's daughter, who is there as like and Damien's there too. So there's two kids, I guess, but that was interesting, and she ends up being kind of instrumental here, and like, you know, like
getting Damien out of the realm.
Which she does succeed in doing, but she ends up trapped in it anyway. So she ends up like stuck with the rest of them, and she gets grabbed. In fact, her and one of the other characters both got grabbed, and they've got their mark on them, like of the beast, if you will. But because they're super powered, they seem to be resisting whatever like affects everyone else. They were able to stave it off, but it does like trap the Justice League in this bubble effectively of like whatever's going on. So yeah, that's honestly, it was fun seeing Irie deal with that. There's also like a funny moment where Nubia says thank Hera, and Mira goes, "No, Mira, it's Mira you're thanking," which I thought was a funny little line. But just mostly fun, regardless. And then back to like Zatanna and Damien, and Damien's saying, "I need help. I got your address from so and so." And just as she's saying she doesn't really know what to do, fire starts coming from the fireplace, and out walks Santa Claus, who's came down the chimney. And yeah, it's like, okay, so he's
good old Kris Kringle.
He's been monitoring what's going on. He's got a connection to them now because he's a good boy, basically.
He's listening through, because he's listening through the candles that are part of the ornaments on the tree, which is how they found Damien in the first Silent Night.
And it turns out that this big evil thing was one of the entities that escaped when Krampus released a bunch of evil stuff back in the first story, and they were able to like contain most of them, but this is one that got out. So this is how it ties back in plot wise to that. And here we are. So this sets up why it connects to that story. And Zatanna is going to read up on all this mystical stuff as Damien takes Santa off to the scene of the crime, effectively.
Yep.
So yeah, but this thing, there's there's a giant Titan that shows up, and
it's a frost giant.
Yeah, Justice League have to try and fight it. So again, there's some more action. It's a bit fluffy in that sense because it is just kind of here's some fun, here's some characters interacting. But I will say the team up is very interesting, and like Mira kind of like taking Irie under her wing and sort of looking after her when she gets scared is an interesting little pairing as well. Maybe it makes sense because Mira is actually a mother now, so she maybe sympathizes with the kids a bit more or whatever. But yeah, apparently like reality's changing. Like this evil thing's like sucks so much life force out that it's building stuff, and in particular seems to have built this evil looking castle at the end, fueled by all the human lives that it sucked life from.
Yeah.
And that's what the cliffhanger to the end of the issue is.
It's driving me nuts because I should know what this type of thing is, but I have no clue.
I mean, I wouldn't know what it is, so I didn't even try and think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fun issue. It's definitely the most kind of like just fluffy, lightest book that I read this week, but that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as it's entertaining.
Yeah.
I will admit that it is a little bit more of an ask to read this on a busy week like this when I already feel like I read enough, but it certainly wasn't bad, and I'm down to read more of it.
Oh yeah, for sure, and it's weekly, so I just checked too. So
yeah, it was weekly last time as well.
Yeah. Because I was like, we're gonna keep reading Christmas stuff through like March, but no, it's weekly. So, but yeah, it doesn't seem to have the Christmassy vibe as the first one did. So we'll see how that goes, depending what this entity is. I mean, it's pretty powerful, the fact that it escaped one of the constructs from John, right? John put it in like this Canapic jar, and it almost teleported out, and that's how it got Superman. So whatever they're fighting, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, I think by its nature, they couldn't make it as Christmassy as the first one. Maybe it'll get more Christmassy later, but I feel like it's just the fact that Santa Claus is here helping is really all you've got. Like, obviously, Zatanna's got a Christmas tree up, but other than that, it's not really like the mood because we started this with the Justice League already fighting something and in some sort of like secluded location in the desert or whatever it is. So there's not really a lot to feel Christmassy.
Yeah.
And I guess they just figured, well, like, what do we do? Like, maybe they just didn't have another idea that felt as Christmassy. But maybe, like I say, maybe it'll get more Christmassy.
Yeah, I think it will, because there's a ton of old world, like Yuletide and winter solstice type monsters to pull from. So, and I trust Jeph Parker because that's where he kind of he plays the best in that kind of sandbox. That's why he was, Yeah,
I mean, maybe it'll tie back into Christmas where the villain's going to like go after children on Christmas morning or something like that.
Where it feels like it's kind of building towards. But yeah, I mean, for it was a nice, like you said, it was light and fluffy. But after this week, right? I read this right after Black Canary, so after having all of that and that so condensed and a lot going on, to have this, which is like, oh, cool, Viking Santa's back. Like, it was a nice addition.
Yeah, it just feels like a sequel to that book, for better or worse. I think if you like that book, you'll probably get some fun out of this. It is nice them bringing in more characters, though. I wasn't expecting Irie to be one of the team members, so that's cool.
And see Nubia as well. That's a nice addition. It's not just Diana.
It is funny though that because the first book definitely started off feeling Batman Santa Claus, and then by the end, the whole Justice League's involved. That's kind of cool. Because this one starts off with like a full team already, it kind of feels like the name's kind of stupid. Like, why don't you just call it Silent Knight Returns? Like, it's because putting Batman's name in the book's title sells it better, but fundamentally, it doesn't feel like it's specifically a Batman book. He feels like a minor character in this at best.
I mean, they could have just been Justice League.
Yeah, it could have been Justice League. Yeah,
Silent Knight Returns, which it's definitely called Silent Knight Returns to play off of the Dark Knight Returns.
Of course. I mean, but even just calling the first one Silent Knight was a play on Dark Knight. So.
Yeah. I mean, even Santa and Damien kind of hit that, Batman Carrie Kelly pose as they're leaving Zatanna's place.
That said, I've always liked Silent Knight less as a Christmas reference and more of a cool nickname for Cass, because she's the quiet one.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that was her first arc of her ongoing series
Silent
was
Night.
called Silent Night. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was
well,
such a
makes
cool title.
sense.
Yeah. All right. What you rating?
Cool.
Silent Night Returns Part 1.
I mean, this is a solid 7.
Yeah, about a 7. It's good. But I wouldn't go any higher than that though. So cool. All right. Well, every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make me read a book at one of the higher tiers. And this week I am looking at Planetary issue 3, which I've been reading. I'm just laughing because for the audio listeners anyway, Matt just got up and walked out of the room for, I assume, something. Maybe he's going to the bathroom or something. And he was very close to, I mean, I know it as the builder's bum, where the ass crack kind of sticks out the back of your shorts. Now, it didn't happen, but I thought it was going to, because there was a little bit of a gap between his shirt and his shorts. But luckily, they weren't going that low. Anyway, but it gave me a chuckle. I thought it was almost a very embarrassing moment I'd have to cut out. Instead, there's just going to be 30 seconds of me talking about it while he's gone. Anyway, so yes, Planetary issue 3. I've been very impressed with this series so far. It's been kind of this fun, very standalone issue type book where both issue 1 and 2 really just gave me interesting concepts and really made an entertaining comic book out of them. And I kind of feel the same way about this issue. I think especially this issue has a really cool action scene that the book starts on, where seemingly some criminal, some gangster in Hong Kong has killed a woman, and they're very evil, they're very unlikable. Like, he basically just says, oh, we have to go find some more like prostitutes to kill, we have to go do this, blah blah blah, and they're driving, and so we get these evil characters right away. But the sequence that plays out is that effectively a ghost appears on the middle of the road and starts shooting at the car, but the guns fire real bullets, and we get this stuff where the car sees him, but they can kind of tell he's a ghost, or at least, or maybe they're trying to just run him over thinking it's a person, but they just drive through him. So you get this good sense of motion. But in the next page, when you turn the page, you get basically, as the car's passing through this ghost, who we later find out is a dead cop, a dead detective, the ghost like fires both guns right into the faces of the two people in the front of the car, and it's like a really cool shot. And then he crosses his arms and fires the gun at the two people in the back seat. So he kills all 4 people in this car by just standing still and letting the car drive through him, and takes the shots at the right seconds as they go through. It's a really cool action scene and felt very impressive, to the point where, like, there's a lot of action in a lot of comic books. Most of the time it just all kind of blurs together and I don't really think about it. But this felt like a cool scene. This felt like a ghost version of John Wick is taking out some bad guys. And then there's a second car coming up towards him, and that car tries to swerve out the way and says, oh shit, the other car just like... I mean, from their perspective, it would have looked like some gunshots, then a crash. But they swerve out the way, and the ghost like keeps firing his guns and runs towards them. And it ends in this big climactic moment where he fires a gun, and there's kind of like almost like a flame from the back of the bullet, like sort of like showing where it's been going. And it basically does like a right angle where the bullet goes up to like the side of the car where there's one guy left alive, and the bullet just changes at a 90-degree angle, and then there's a panel of the bullet with the flames coming from behind it, like the trail of flames coming from the bullet is going through this guy's head, like in one ear and out the other, as he's screaming. I cannot compliment just how impressive an opening scene this was for this issue, because it was just very thrilling on its own, with no context. Obviously, I'm like, there's a ghost killing bad guys, that's kind of cool, but like, beyond that, it's really just how impressive the layouts are and how exciting the action scene is. Like, at the very least, you get the idea that this is some sort of spirit of vengeance taking out some criminals. And it's just really well drawn, really well paced. You know, the layouts just make it work in this way where it just, you feel the momentum, you feel each beat of the scene playing out, and it feels very cinematic. So I can't compliment that enough. It's probably the best single scene of this book so far, just in terms of a pure action scene anyway. So, and then it's revealed at this point that our team is already here watching this play out. And they're like, oh shit, that's wild. That was just a ghost in Hong Kong, just killed some bad guys. What's going on? And they go to the Planetary branch in Hong Kong, which is interesting in of itself, because the woman who runs this branch says she's been here for 6 years, and that immediately makes Chiquita go like, wait a minute, what's going on there? Because I thought this organization has only been around for 4 years. No one's ever said they've been here longer than that. So they're like, okay, that's different, and maybe amps up the mystery a little bit. Snow has just been a little bitch the entire time, though. He's just like cracking lines about everything and generally being unhelpful. But they go out to where this ghost died originally. So they basically discover that this is a cop who was betrayed and assassinated when he got too close to a crime. He was going to take someone down for killing someone. So they go out to where he was killed, and it's actually a drummer who's like feeling the reverberations throughout the ground, and he has Chiquita like stomp on the ground to like so he can feel them better. And ultimately, and this is actually kind of weird because this doesn't actually get resolved in this issue, a giant monolith, which is like a big jar or a big like test tube that's got a bit of like sort of like a gothic design to it, but it looks like there's just lots of like people inside it, like all like in the fetal position, but they're all naked. It's very Lovecraftian. Like this is like some weird shit that I can't explain, and they can't explain it. They're like, what the hell is this? And the ghost shows up out of nowhere and says it's God, or at least that's the only word that I can find that fits it. It's this huge object filled with like hundreds of thousands of different angles, but it's never really goes beyond that, where the rest of the plot like never really addresses what this big thing was that was in the ground. I mean, maybe it's why like someone died and became a ghost and like became this spirit of vengeance. And they do say repeatedly that when this guy eventually gets like, or when someone else like dies the way he did, when someone else gets betrayed and becomes a spirit of vengeance, he will get to retire as a ghost and he'll finally get to leave. But until that happens, he's the ghost that's kind of policing this city, basically. I mean, the art here is great, like especially the panels of the ghost, because the way he's like faded into the background, it just has like a lot of mood to it versus all the other characters who are, you know, just drawn more traditionally. But yeah, so it basically goes into like why he was killed. He was getting close to this. Well, I say murder. It was someone powerful in the underworld in Hong Kong wanted this like famous movie star to come and be in a film they were financing. And the movie star said, nope, I'm quite happy where I am. So this criminal castrated their brother and then stapled his parts to the movie star's daughter's door. So stapled this guy's dick onto the door of his daughter as like a warning to come and look. So basically this cop was looking into this, and he'd actually kind of figured out who it was, like who the people who actually carried out the job was, who gave the orders, and then ultimately his partner betrayed him because it turns out not because he get paid off necessarily, just because he didn't like him. So like the whole thing's just like a sad story from top to bottom. But eventually the one of the main people involved in the crime like comes after the ghost here. Like he's like, oh, it's Mark, he's coming. So the other characters dive out the way, and Chiquita runs up, and I can only describe it as does a flying kick into the front of the car, which crashes the car. It's actually also the cover of the issue, is this panel. Just a full page splash with her foot into the front of the car, and it's like the car's hit a billiard, you know, like something really tough that's just small that it'll sort of wrap around. And like the driver's like coming flying out the windshield. It's a great panel with lots of detail. Really good stuff. And then the ghost starts firing at the other vehicle. Yeah. So yeah, very, very good stuff. Yeah, and Chiquita grabs this guy Mock and starts demanding answers and whatnot. But Yeah, basically, yeah, the ghost gets his vengeance, holds a gun to his head, says that he had a life, said he has all this. You know, like, I was the good cop, I was the good guy who did things by the book, I was the one who didn't break the rules, didn't retaliate or anything like that. And right after he says that, there's just the panel of all the blood spurting up from the gunshot, where he's executed this guy point blank. So this guy, like, was a good person who was turned into this vicious, like, he wasn't like attacking good people, don't get me wrong, like, he was only going after bad guys, but he became this vengeful ghost, this bloodthirsty ghost that just keeps looking for his next kill, for the next bad person that deserves it. So, you know, it really is something that corruption ruined in, like, every way. So yeah, he turns to the team, who have mostly just observed what's happened this issue for the most part. They've not really done a lot to interact with them. And they say, you people came here looking for a mystery to investigate, but there isn't a mystery, there's just us. And Drummer says, did he just say justice? And Snow corrects him and says, no, he says just us. And that's it. That's the end of the issue. That's the point that it ends on. So there is no justice. There's just whatever we do in the face of, like, these bad things. Obviously, it's a very nihilistic issue. There's nothing happy about it. It's got a lot of cool action. It's very much in line with, like, a, you know, John Wick meets The Crow, I guess, if I was to...
Well, it's like a Hong Kong, right? He's like Chow Yun-Fat and Jackie Chan and, you know, police story, right?
I mean, yeah, if you want to specifically go like that. But I just mean the sense that you've got a badass who's doing, like, revenge stuff, but it's supernatural. He's dead, so that makes me think of The Crow. Not that The Crow's a ghost, per se, but, you know what I mean, like...
Yeah. And it's also, he's kind of like the Spectre, too, right?
Yeah, especially when I think he literally says, I'm a spirit of vengeance at one point, which obviously made me think of the Spectre, because that's literally what he says all the time. So, yeah, but I think what's interesting about it, though, is that the way this issue approaches it, it's more like not a folklore thing, but this idea, it makes me think of, like, this is not Hong Kong, this is Japan, but it makes me think of The Grudge, where that ghost exists because something really bad happened, and when something happens out of so much hatred, it creates a curse. And that's what this made me think of. It was like, this, what happened to this guy was so bad that he became this entity that started stalking the streets. And I also even thought a little bit about Batman, because I'm like, yeah, something so bad happened to Batman, like Bruce Wayne as a kid, that he became this entity that like stalks the streets looking for criminals, not killing them, obviously, like this guy is, but there's parallels there. And it really felt like a sort of cause and effect thing, where sometimes society's so bad and what happens to people is so bad that it creates these larger than life, like, forces that become, like, really defined by one purpose and one sole determination. And it's like, yeah, there's no justice here, there's just us. And there's definitely been lines like that in Batman before, where there's no justice in Gotham, there's just Batman. And, like, you know, that's definitely been a sentiment that's come up before, so it was hard not to compare that a little bit. And it's not like other parts of this book haven't, you know, directly kind of been parallels to other superheroes. Like, you know, all that superhero stuff in the first issue definitely stuck out to me. So yeah, this was just like, I wonder if that big monolith thing will pop back up in, like, a sort of more, like, connected part of the story later on. But as far as this goes, it was a really strong issue with a really exciting, simple premise, with really cool action scenes, where I just really enjoyed it as a comic book, where I enjoyed, like, how it constructed its scenes. It felt cool, it felt thrilling, and then ultimately by the end, it had a very neat story that was tied up in a single point. I've been very impressed with this book so far, and I think issue 3 is continuing that. A good, gritty, violent ghost story, I guess, is how you're teasing the mystery of the Planetary group a little bit as well, with the whole 6-year thing, but for the most part, it's the standalone story just kind of works on its own as an exciting tale. So makes me excited for the next one. So yeah, I gotta slap a 9 on it, to be honest. It was such a good comic that that's all I can give it. So there you go. That will take us on to the final part of the show, where we pick our favorite things of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. So Matt, what are you giving panel / moment of the week to?
Man, there's gonna be a lot of stuff in this week. Not just because of shared numbers, but there's a lot of stuff that left a imprint. I wanna bring up in Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman. They had that, the shared glance between Dinah and Cersei about him being a gift, but also the, her and Steve talking on the beach. I thought that was another good moment. They're there. Dan Mora is just full of them between Justice League Unlimited and Superman. You have some from Ryan Sook in Canary. But if I have to pick, I'll take. Let's see, what do I take? I'll go Dan Mora doing the kind of the history and future of Doomsday. There's that big 2-page spread, kind of hints at things to come and things that have passed. Really, really fun piece of art.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I will probably go with Absolute Wonder Woman, but I'm going with the Kaiju reveal, the big 2-page splash page. I just like the impact of that on that issue was just felt instantly. So there's definitely some stuff in Black Canary that I could have picked, but I think for just sheer moment of wow, I think that has to be it. So, all right, cover of the week, Matt.
Okay, I'll do some talking. Here, well, I don't know if you were looking because
I'm looking now, Matt. On you go.
Yeah. So there's a Detective Comics. Who is this? A Redondo variant that's got Batman on the hood of a car, people shooting at him. I think that's a lot of fun. Superman had a couple. There is a Chris Samnee that's got Superman over some cornfields, and there's a big Superman S there. There's another one that is, who is this one? It looks like it's Dave Johnson, but it looks like one of those old ads that were in the back of comic books for like X-ray specs. And it's got Superman hitting what looks like a Brainiac drone with the heat vision. And these are like heat vision glasses. I think that's a lot of fun. There's whose variant was this? The Gleb Melnikov? I can never say his. Melnikov, there we go. His variant for Nightwing looks very much like an old Redondo or who else was doing the covers for a while on Nightwing? But it's got Nightwing doing this dive. The buildings are blue, and his cable looks like it's making an infinity sign. And the last one I want to spotlight is who is this? Stephanie Hahn's variant for Absolute Wonder Woman. A lot of good stuff. Just the way that she's done here, it's a bit softer, but the way her hair curls, the gigantic sword, her magic tattoos, all spot off. But if I'm picking, and I'm gonna pick, well, you still look, it's gonna be the Superman Chris Samnee with the S in the cornfield. Looks like I'm drawing a blank of what those are called. Crop circles.
Crop circle, yes.
It looks like a crop circle. A lot of fun. But yeah, that's mine.
All right, yeah. There's so many. Do you know what? There's so many that I don't even think any of the ones I'm mentioning you already mentioned. So yeah. I like the main cover for Detective with Batman just sort of standing in the Batcave, but the red glow kind of coming from the the thing he's holding, the vial of stuff that he's holding. I really like the variant from Ashley Wood, which is like a sort of gothic, sort of charcoal looking, like just building in Gotham with Batman standing at the top of it. It's just a really simple, moody piece. I really like that. I really like the Nightwing variant from Dan Panosian, which is like got like a really kind of gritty looking version of the city as Nightwing's just kind of like jumping through it. But it's really like how good the city looks that really makes that one stand out to me. So I really like that. I like the Superman variant also from Dan Panosian, which is Lois like opening her shirt to reveal the S like Clark. It's just a really high quality image. Lois's face looks incredibly sort of detailed. So just digging it more than anything. And then there's two covers for Black Canary that I really like. I like the variant from David Nakayama with her using her Canary cry. It's a little bit pin-uppy, but like it does look good. I can't really deny it.
I mean, it looks like a cover to like a collection for Black Canary.
But my pick is probably going to be the main cover to Black Canary, which is just Canary sort of wiping the blood off her mouth from the fight. It's just really high contrast, like really harsh light on her back. It looks really moody. Yeah, it's the one that pops out the most to me this week. So yeah, there you go. That was a lot of covers to mention. There was a lot of books this week, and they all had a lot of covers.
Well, I was just trying to vamp while you were looking. You're trying to give you some more time. So yeah, a lot of good covers this week, though.
Yeah. So art of the week. What you got?
All right, for the sake of brevity, I'm gonna give it to Ryan Sook for Black Canary.
Sure.
Because I feel like everything goes. But I want to shout out Dan Mora and Hayden Sherman for Mora for Justice League Unlimited, and Sherman for Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah, obviously Mora's great. Sherman, more complicated answer, but obviously I had a lot of great things to say about Sherman's art. Dexter Soy, I really liked in Nightwing for a more pulpy kind of looking book. But it is. Also, I want to mention Last Halloween as well, actually.
Okay, yeah. That was one I could have mentioned too.
Yeah.
It's based on that one.
That said, though, I'm also picking Black Canary. So Ryan Sook does take it for that. All right. Top 5, Matt, go.
All right. 1 is going to be Black Canary. 2 is going to be Absolute Wonder Woman. 3 is Justice League Unlimited. 4 is Long Halloween. And 5 is Detective Comics.
All right. Number 1 is Black Canary. Number 2 is Absolute Wonder Woman. Number 3. Oh, this is tough. Number 3, I'm going to say Last Halloween. Number 4, Nightwing. Number 5, Detective.
Okay.
Yeah, I can even put Detective above Last Halloween, actually, but either way, that's where I'm landing. So there you go. All right, well, I'll just tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics then, and we'll see if it's as big a week. I might be looking at this quickly. We have Batman 155. We have Absolute Superman issue 2. We have Action Comics 1078. We have Poison Ivy 28. Birds of Prey 16. We have Batgirl issue 2. Oh, that looks like a nice cover, just by a glance. We have GSA issue 2. We have Shazam issue 18. We have Two-Face issue 1, which we'll be checking out. We have DC Horror Presents issue 2. We have Batman Santa Claus, Silent Night Returns issue 2. DC Horror Presents Creature Commandos issue 2. DC's Batman Smells Robin Laid an Egg. That's your $10 anthology Christmas one shot. And then you've got some reprints, facsimiles, and Scooby-Doo books or whatever. So there you go.
DC, please stop putting out good stuff. Man, these weeks are killing me.
Yeah, it's another hefty week. I mean, the weekly Christmas book and the weekly Action Comics isn't helping, but
no,
we're that's only one more month of that, so we should be smoothed out a little bit by January. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 9, which is the same as this week. Wait, why don't you have an extra one? You're not reading Poison Ivy?
No, I am. Wait, do I have 10? Did I miss one?
You may have 10. Yeah, 10?
No, I have 10. I missed, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Oh, well, there you go, everyone. We'll see you
I'm
next week.
I'm not going to not read Ivy. Like, come on now.
Oh, dear.
And I still have a Titans to get caught up on, and Power Girl. Good Lord.
Well, I mean, see if, the next time Titans is out, you might find, I don't want to read that again because there's too many books.
Pull a Connor.
Yeah, okay. Is that what we're calling that?
Yeah.
All right. There you go. That's what's coming next week from DC Comics. Of course, we're coming up to Christmas season. Don't know, we haven't really talked about that yet. I'm sure me and Matt will discuss that in the next couple of weeks as to what our planned schedule for that's going to be. But we'll do whatever we can to make sure those episodes. I mean, obviously something might be later than normal or whatever. hopefully we don't have to double up in a week, because that would be a nightmare with the amount of books that are coming out right now. But obviously the end of year special as well is something we're going to have to think about for early January, late December, depending on what suits us best. But we'll think about that in the coming weeks and see what we come up with. But yeah, this was the last week in November books, so we are getting into Christmas season. So thank you very much for joining us. Of course, you can let us know what you thought of the books in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or you can get the Discord or whatever if you want to go seek us out. I'm not even going to bother mentioning Twitter anymore. I should probably take them off the overlay since Twitter's kind of dwindling. But regardless, you can like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications on YouTube. You can support us various ways. Main way being Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Where you'll get bonuses for all the movie and TV stuff that I also do on YouTube, but you get the comics podcast a little bit early, and it helps keep the show coming and lets us know people are into it. So thank you very much for joining. We appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.